Chapter 624. Shameless. She angrily cursed out before turning her head to avoid the fruit he handed over. She turned a deaf ear to his words and did not even care about them. Namu-kyo revealed a proud smile. The angrier she was, the happier he was. On the way out of the city, the road became narrower and more rugged. In the end, the horse carriage could not move forward at all. Namu-kyo had the driver stop the carriage and wait in place. He pointed at a tall mountain in front of him and said to her, "Can you climb to the top of this mountain?" Chen-ning looked up and saw that the mountain was steep. The middle of the mountain was covered in layers of white mist and she could not see the peak. There were strange rocks everywhere and there was no path at all. "Did you bring me out just to climb a mountain? This prince just wants to see if you have the qualifications to be this prince's disciple. You want this prince to teach you secret techniques. Alright, as long as you climb to the top of the mountain with your own strength, this prince will immediately teach it to you," he said. "Your Highness, don't you think you are forcing me?" She gritted her teeth. She did not have any climbing tools. If she were to climb the mountain like this and climb this kind of dangerous mountain, she would fall to her death before she could even climb halfway. He revealed a smile at her. "It's fine if you don't want to climb. As long as you ask the prince to carry you up, this prince will carry you up the mountain. Once we reach the top, this prince will teach you." The mountain here was extremely steep, and the path he chose was even more difficult to traverse. There were many cliff-like stone walls in many places, and for an ordinary person who did not know Qigong, climbing to the top of the mountain on foot was almost as difficult as ascending to heaven. But for a Qigong expert like Namu-kyo, climbing to the top of the mountain was just a few breaths of time. He deliberately used this method to make it hard for her and then waited for her to beg him. "Didn't you not let this prince touch you? This prince wants you to personally ask this prince to carry you." "No need." Chen-ning looked up and looked at him, reading his thoughts with her eyes. He wanted her to admit defeat. No way. Wasn't it just climbing a mountain? She did not believe that she could not climb it. Although she did not know martial arts, she still had a foundation in martial arts and her body was stronger than normal people. Adding in the fact that Chu Xiaobai had taught her some Qigong, although they were all beginner level, they were very practical. Only she did not have time to practice it, so this was a good chance to practice it. As she silently recited the essentials of Qigong, she studied how to use it. Gradually, she understood it and actually figured out a lot of tricks. Her feet suddenly felt light, and her speed of climbing the mountain also increased a lot. Namu-kyo slowed down his footsteps and followed behind her, so that he could catch her if she fell. Seeing her clumsy movements, she was like a little duck that was learning to walk, swaying and almost falling several times, but before he could reach out to support her, she actually stood up on her own. Along the way, her clothes were all soaked in sweat and stuck tightly to her body. The embroidered hat on her head had been hooked away by a tree branch at some point. Her fair and tender face was covered in sweat and dust. She looked very disheveled. But her eyes shone brighter than ever. Chapter 625. Your Highness, you have to keep your word. I'm already standing on the top of the mountain, can you start teaching me now? Chen-ning used her tenacious willpower to finally reach the top of the mountain. She was already panting from exhaustion. Namu-kyo stood beside her. His face was not red and he was not out of breath. The clothes on his body were as clean as if he had just put them on, there was not even a speck of dust on them. At this time, the red sun was slowly setting in the west. The evening clouds were like a raging fire, dyeing half the sky red. It was very beautiful. "Look!" He pointed at the setting sun and only said a single word. Chen-ning looked at it a few times. She had to admit that the setting sun was very beautiful, but she had worked hard to climb the mountain, not to see the sunset. "Is it beautiful?" he asked. Beautiful my ass. She was so tired that she found a rock to sit down on. She was not even out of breath. How could she be in the mood to see the sunset? Your Highness, do you still keep your word? Observe. He simply said 2 words. Observe. Observe what? Na mu kyo. If you told me to climb up here to watch the sunset with you, then you can watch it by yourself. I'm not interested in this. Chen Ning felt like her lungs were about to explode from anger. While climbing up the mountain, she had encountered danger several times, almost falling down and bleeding. She never thought that after climbing up, he would be leisurely watching the sunset. The most beautiful scenery in this world is always fleeting, so whenever I see this kind of beautiful scenery, I can't help observing it. I want to remember this scene that changes in an instant. When I close my eyes, I can still clearly see the sunset and every change will clearly appear in my mind. Over time, I have developed this kind of habit. When I see the ebb and flow of the tide, when I see the sunrise and sunset, when I see the clouds in the desert, when I see the mirage, and even when I see the fireworks, I will observe and remember this fleeting beautiful moment. Na Mu Kyo did not turn around to look at Chen Ning. He had been looking at the setting sun on the horizon as he slowly spoke. His voice was beautiful and deep, like he was reciting a poem in a low voice. Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat and her eyes began to glow. She suddenly looked up and looked at the setting sun. The red sun quickly fell to the other side of the mountain. It was just like Na Mu Kyo said, it was fleeting. She did not look for long before there was a faint red glow on the horizon and the sky began to darken. She closed her eyes and began to think back in her mind. Na Mu Kyo had his hands behind his back as he stared at her. After a while, she finally opened her eyes. Her eyes sparkled and she smiled at him. Do you understand? In fact, he didn't need to ask. Just by looking at the expression of understanding on her face, he knew that she had completely understood his words. I understand. Thank you, Your Highness. Very good. I've already told you the principles. What you need to do now is to practice more. She understood his meaning and nodded. At this time, the sky had already darkened. She was standing on the peak of the mountain with the blue sky above her head, dotted with a few stars. She knew that there was nothing suitable for her to practice her observation here, unless she waited for the sun to rise. The wind blew across the mountain peak and her sweat-soaked clothes were already dried by the wind. If this continued, she did not have the confidence that she wouldn't be sick. Chapter 626. Then let's go down the mountain. She began to look for a path down the mountain. But going up the mountain was easy, going down the mountain was hard. Especially on this steep mountain, there was no path at all. She had relied on her tenacity to go up the mountain. Adding in the fact that the sky was still bright, she could clearly see where the rocks and grass were, but now there was only the faint starlight. Looking down now, she couldn't find a place to land at all. There were only protruding rocks that looked like strange shadows in the night. If she dared go down the mountain, she could fall down at any moment and break into pieces. She stood there in a daze as she bit her lower lip. Her heart was filled with anger and the good feelings and gratitude she had for Na Mu Kyo completely disappeared. Na Mu Kyo. She turned around with her hands tightly clenched into fists, staring at him like an angry little beast. She now understood that Na Mu Kyo's schemes were much deeper than she had imagined. He was truly worthy of being the smartest person in the world. Not only was he smart, he was also sly. He could casually dig a hole for her to jump in with her eyes closed. Na Mu Kyo sat on a high protruding rock, looking very casual. The cloak on his body fluttered in the wind, like the wings of an eagle dancing in the night. Her thin clothes were blown through by the wind, and she shivered all over, but there wasn't even a place to take shelter from the wind. Na Mu Kyo tilted his head and looked at her. He suddenly patted the spot beside him and grinned. If you don't want to get sick, then sit here. She ignored him. He wanted her to throw herself into his arms, but that was impossible. She grabbed a vine and carefully climbed down. Slowly, she used a bit of strength, her toes probing the ground around her. Suddenly, her hand loosened and the vine snapped in two. She gave a short cry of shock as she fell down the mountain. Damn! As the world spun around her, she heard a curse. Then, she fell into a strong embrace. Namu Kyo used one arm to protect her head, pressing her head tightly against his chest, carrying her as they rolled down the mountain. The hard protruding rocks left countless bloody marks and wounds on his body, but he still did not let go of his arm. Suddenly, the two of them fell through the air as they fell down a cliff. Namu Kyo took a deep breath as his arm tightly wrapped around her waist. His right hand pulled out a dagger and he stabbed it into the stone wall. The tip of the sword pierced deep into the rock, supporting the bodies of the two people who were falling down. They were hanging on a rock wall that was as smooth as a mirror and there was a bottomless abyss below them. The mountain wind whistled through the air. There was a white mist below them and they could not see how deep it was. But if they fell down, even with Namu Kyo's high-level martial arts, they would not be able to escape death. Little beauty, is this the result you wanted? Do you know that if I didn't save you, you would have been turned into a pile of meat by now? Namu Kyo lowered his head and looked at her in his embrace, revealing his white teeth as he smiled. Chen Ning looked up. Her eyes were as clear as usual and she also revealed a smile. You're the one who took the initiative to save me. If you fall down and become a pile of meat, it has nothing to do with me. Chapter 627. You really are a strange girl. It was clearly me who saved you, but you still don't appreciate it. He smiled and pushed off the stone wall with the tip of his foot. His body suddenly rose up and flew up the cliff like a goshawk. He did not let go of the arm around her waist as he brought her up the mountain. He returned to the top of the mountain and sat down on the giant rock he was sitting on before. Put this on and you won't feel cold. He took off his cloak and placed it over her shoulders, helping her tie up the belt. Namu Kyo, do you want to wait to see the sunrise tomorrow? She turned to look at him, not understanding why he was still staying here. With his martial arts, going up and down the mountain was like walking on flat ground, he could go down and come back up. I want to give you a present. He did not answer her question. He took out a black object from his waist. It was crooked and looked like a small iron snake. I don't deserve a reward without doing anything. Your Highness' gift, I am ashamed to accept it. Please take it back. She didn't even look at him and rejected him bluntly. Do you think it's this? Of course not. The things this prince wants to give you, you can't take it back. Namu Kyo placed the little iron snake in his mouth and blew with all his strength. A sharp whistle pierced through the night and spread far away. Instantly the birds in the forest were startled and they flapped their wings to fly into the sky. Following that, there was a muffled sound that came from the foot of the mountain. Pang! She saw a meteor cannon fly into the sky and explode in midair. It was a riot of colors as it flowed through the sky. It was dazzling in the night and was incomparably gorgeous. So, the present he wanted to give her was this. Chen Ning instantly understood. She immediately focused her attention and slightly leaned forward. Her eyes did not even blink as she stared at the rain of flowers in the night sky. She imprinted the ever-changing scene into her mind. She heard a pang, pang sound as meteor cannon after meteor cannon flew into the sky. It was beautiful and beautiful, looking like a fantasy. Chen Ning did not care about cheering as she focused all of her attention on her eyes and mind. She did not see or hear anything around her. The sea of flowers bloomed in the night sky and the light from the flames shined on her cheeks. Her dark eyes were filled with a strange glow, making her look strangely beautiful. Na-mu Kyo looked at her without blinking. She remembered the fireworks, but he remembered her. This beautiful scene had not appeared in front of him in many years. He remembered that when he saw the fireworks with Yili Xian, he thought that they would be together for the rest of their lives, but she was like a beautiful firework. After it bloomed, all that was left for him was a lonely lamp. The mountain wind blew and the night sky was silent. No matter how beautiful the fireworks were, they would still turn into nothing. He had lost Yili Xian before, so could he have this girl in front of him? Would she be like this firework, leaving nothing behind after it bloomed? So he had to firmly remember this scene, remember the multicolored clouds reflected on her face, remember the flowers blooming like a brocade in her eyes. All of a sudden, his body trembled slightly, and the expression on his face changed. But she was completely immersed in the world of fireworks and did not pay attention at all. She did not even look at him from the corner of her eyes. Gu, Ge, Ge, Ge. Chapter 628. The poison had acted up. Damn, he had been so engrossed in looking at her that he had completely forgotten about the time the poison had acted up. Na-mu Kyo gritted his teeth, not allowing himself to make a sound. He wanted to use his internal energy to fight against the cold in his body, but he became colder and colder. It was like the blood in his body had turned to ice and his hands were numb. Finally, with a ping sound, he fell down like a stone statue. Na-mu Kyo. What's wrong? Hearing the sound of him falling, Chen-ning suddenly came back to her senses. She found that he had fallen on the stone and his body was curled up, trembling non-stop. That face that always had a bright smile on it was now pale white and his lips had turned purple. Cold. Gu, Ji. Cold. Na-mu Kyo's teeth were chattering from the cold and there was a layer of white frost on his hair. Chen-ning immediately understood that the poison in his body had acted up. She instantly knit her brows. There was no cure for this angel's horn in this world. The only way to slow down the poison was to soak in a hot spring. Only a hot spring filled with sulfur could make the frozen blood in his body start to flow again. But at the peak of this mountain, where could she find a hot spring? Na-mu Kyo. Na-mu Kyo. She knelt down beside him and called out. She saw that his bright eyes had already dimmed and his lips had been bitten by himself, leaking blood. She gently touched it and felt that the blood was ice cold. Standing beside him, she could feel a cold aura pressing down on her. She took off her cloak and wrapped it around him, but it was of no use to him. He was cold from the bottom of his bones. Na-mu Kyo, tell me, other than hot springs, is there any other way to reduce your poison? She loudly called out in his ear because she was not sure if he was conscious or not. His eyes did not seem to be moving and his body was curled up into a ball, just like a statue made of ice. Even his clothes were covered in a thin layer of ice. The more she looked, the more shocked she was. She never thought that this angel's horn would act up like this. His lips moved, but his tongue was stiff as he spat out an unclear word. She looked at his lips and nodded. She understood. He said, blood. She did not hesitate at all as she pulled out the scimitar from his waist and cut her left wrist. Blood instantly flowed out. Drink, quickly drink. She placed the wound on her wrist in front of his lips and the warm blood flowed into his mouth. Na-mu Kyo's eyes suddenly opened wide and he stared right at her without blinking. The warm blood flowed down his throat to his stomach, and he felt a warm feeling in his body. As the warm blood increased, his body also became warmer. Enough. Enough. He wanted to say enough, but he could not say it clearly. Seeing that the blood on the wound was gradually coagulating, she cut her right wrist and continued to feed him blood. Na-mu Kyo closed his eyes and slowly took a deep breath. The true qi in his body slowly circulated, sending the warmth to his limbs and bones. Gradually, he no longer felt cold and his stiff limbs became soft. Suddenly, he leapt up from the ground and let out a clear and melodious roar. He felt that his entire body was once again filled with energy and vitality. However, he knew that this was only temporary. The warm blood he drank could only suppress the cold poison for about an hour. He needed to soak in the hot spring to control the poison. Chapter 629. Why did you save me? Don't you hate me a lot? Why didn't you let me die from the poison? He looked down at her and said in a dry voice. He knew that time was precious and it was not the time to speak, but he couldn't help speaking. She was bandaging the wound on her wrist with her head lowered. Hearing this, she didn't even raise her head and said, "You saved me once just now, so we're even now. No one owes the other anything. You don't have to go easy on me during the competition and deliberately let me win." Competition. The only thing on her mind was that match. Namu-kyo was very curious. Was this competition that important to her? He really wanted to know what she was thinking in that head of hers, but he did not have time to find out right now. He had to go to the hot spring before the poison flared up again. "Come, let's go down the mountain." He raised his cloak and wrapped it around her. Then he carried her on his back and brought her down the mountain. "Your Highness." The carriage driver was waiting at the bottom of the mountain, and when he saw this, he quickly came forward. He had received Namu-kyo's signal to release the fireworks just now. "Send her back. Remember, if she loses a single hair, this prince will cut off your head." Namu-kyo placed her in the carriage. She had already fainted from losing too much blood and her face was as white as paper. Her long eyelashes hung down, covering her eyes. He looked at her with a complicated gaze. He had never understood her before. Chen Ning felt that she had slept for a long, long time. She was very tired and her eyelids were so heavy that she could not open them. In her haze, she heard an angry voice roaring. "Why isn't she awake yet? You quack doctor, come, take her out and chop her into meat paste to feed the dogs." She finally recovered her senses. Her eyelashes slightly moved and she slowly opened her eyes. A tall figure was standing in front of her bed, roaring at an old man that looked like a doctor. That old man kept kowtowing, kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. She turned her eyes and recognized that the angry tall man was Namu-kyo. What, did he want to kill someone again? Your Highness. She opened her mouth to speak. Her voice was hoarse and did not seem like her voice at all. What was wrong with her? She wanted to sit up, but as soon as she raised her arm, it softly fell down. "You're awake." Namu-kyo suddenly turned around, looking surprised and happy. His hand quickly caught her falling body and then he sat down on the bed, letting her lean against his chest. His chest was strong and his muscles were full and supple. It was very comfortable to lean on, but his masculine scent also assaulted her nose, causing her to frown slightly. She did not want to be this close to him, but she knew that if she refused, it would only make him angry. She did not want to be so close to him, but she knew that if she said no, it would only make him angry, so she used a tactful way. As expected, when Namu-kyo heard this, he immediately got up and helped her lie back down. He stood by the bed and looked at her. "Is this better?" His voice actually had a hint of gentleness. "Chin chin, sheet chin, tea, chin chin. Of Dr. Chin chin, tea of chin, chin, all right, this crown prince will make him scram." Quack, scram. Namu-kyo kicked the doctor's butt and the doctor scrammed out as if he was pardoned. Chapter 630. There was still time to practice. What she was most worried about was that she didn't have enough time. The method that Naomu Kyo taught her was not hard and she quickly understood it. She just needed to master it, and if she had time to practice a few more times, she was confident that she could win this competition. Is there anything to eat? I'm hungry. She looked at Naomu Kyo, who was standing in front of the bed. Ever since she woke up, he had been staring at her. His cheetah-like eyes sparkled with a light that she could not understand. His eyes were no longer looking at her like he was looking at prey, rather it was like he was studying her. But she did not have the mind to care about what he was thinking. She wanted her body to quickly recover, and what she needed was a healthy body. Feeding him blood had made her lose a lot of blood. Her body felt very light and she did not even have the strength to walk. Her eyes were turning black, but she believed that as long as she rested for 2 days and ate some blood-replenishing food, she would be fine. She still had important things to do. All right. What do you want to eat? I'll immediately tell them to make it. He suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. He should have already told the chefs to prepare food, but he did not think of it at all. When she was unconscious, he had been guarding her bed, not even blinking. He did not feel hungry, so he did not think that the first thing she wanted to do after waking up would be eat. I want to eat spinach and liver porridge, red date and longan soup, chestnut glutinous rice cake, black chicken lotus root stew, and a large bowl of hot brown sugar ginger tea. The sooner the better. Chen Ning was not polite with him as she listed several blood-replenishing dishes and porridge in one breath. I'll remember it. Wait a bit, this prince will have them send it over immediately. When Naomu Kyo heard these strange dishes, he slightly knit his brows. There were some things that he had never heard of before, but it didn't matter. As long as she ordered it, even if it was dragon liver or phoenix gall, he would give it to her. He sent people to gather all the chefs in the kitchen. Then he read out the names of these dishes and had them immediately make them, not missing a single one. The chefs looked at each other and then kneeled down together. Your Highness, everything else is fine, but it is currently April and the lotus flowers have not even bloomed yet, so how could there be lotus roots? Without lotus roots, no matter how skilled we are, we can't make a dish like black chicken lotus root. When Naomu Kyo heard this, he wanted to kill someone. But if he killed these chefs, who would make food for her? Waste, you're all waste, what use do you have for this prince? Isn't it just lotus roots? There is no need to be afraid of money. The cooks muttered in their hearts, in this world, there are many things that money can't buy. Even if you are the crown prince, you can't let the June camellia bloom in April. In the summer, you can't eat winter bamboo shoots, and in the winter, you can't eat summer broad beans. But no one dared to say these words, no one dared to say it. This prince doesn't care what method you use, you must get the lotus root, otherwise, humph. Naomu Kyo's voice's words. Leaving behind a bunch of cooks complaining to the heavens. The crown prince was clearly making trouble for no reason, but they did not dare to disobey. Piping hot dishes were brought in one by one. Naomu Kyo sat in front of the bed and personally fed her. Your Highness, I'll eat it myself. Chen Ning wanted to take the spoon from his hand, but he did not let go. Chapter 631. He fed her the soup one mouthful at a time. His movements were very careful and gentle, completely different from the wild and tyrannical him. But Chen Ning knew that even wolves, tigers, and leopards would occasionally show a warm side, but that did not mean they wouldn't eat people. After she ate her fill, she closed her eyes to rest. Although her eyes were closed, she could still feel his gaze on her face, not leaving it at all. Your Highness, why do you keep staring at me? If it's because I saved you, then you don't have to. I don't like owing other people favors. You saved me, so I saved you. We don't owe each other anything. She opened her eyes and met his gaze. You saved me because you couldn't bear to let me die and because you've already begun to like me. He suddenly opened his mouth and spoke in a confident tone. Chen Ning almost couldn't help spitting out. She stared at him, not understanding where this man's mysterious confidence came from. Your Highness, I don't. Before she could finish, he covered her mouth. His large palm was tightly pressed against her lips, making her unable to say anything. He revealed a smile that was filled with confidence. I know you won't admit it, but your West Chu women don't mean what they say. Their mouths say they don't want it, but their hearts actually want it. You're not like our East Chin women at all. Liking is liking and loving is loving. After you marry me, I won't allow you to say no to what you mean, do you understand? Marry you? When did I agree to marry you? Her eyes opened wide as she stared at him. Are you so happy that you went crazy when you heard that I wanted to marry you? Look at how big your eyes are. Are you very happy? I promise you, I'm willing to take you as my only woman and become my crown princess. In the future, you can enjoy the honorable honor with me and everyone will look up to you. As for your current husband, Chu Xiaoyang, he will crawl at your feet and look up to you. Chu Xiaoyang's face darkened. He laughed in high spirits and was in high spirits. Chen Ning didn't know whether to laugh or cry hearing this. He released the hand covering her mouth and pulled her hand over. He rubbed the thick gauze on her wrist and looked at her without blinking. His eyes were surprisingly gentle. He said with a serious expression, ever since I was poisoned, my cold poison acted up almost every day. If I can't soak in sulfuric water, I need to drink hot blood to suppress the poison. My servants will always prepare the blood of all kinds of animals. There is chicken blood, duck blood, goat blood, and I don't know how many animals I've drunk over the years. But there has never been anyone like you who would use their blood to feed me, you are the only one. At that time, I was thinking that if I didn't die this time, I would marry this woman. So it was because of this. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have cut her blood to save him. She would have fed him the blood of some random animal, such as a rabbit or pheasant. If he wanted to repay her, she would have let him marry a rabbit or pheasant. Chapter 632. She was full of remorse, looking as if it was too late for regrets. You woman. Na Mu Kyo stared at her and forcefully grinded his teeth. All the gratitude and tenderness in his heart flew away. Just a moment ago, he had wholeheartedly wanted to marry her and treat her gently, but now, he just wanted to strangle her to death. It took a lot of effort for him to not reach out and grab her slender neck, but his face was already red from anger. His chest was heaving up and down as he panted like a bull. No, he couldn't let her continue like this. Otherwise he would be angered to the point of spitting out blood. He lifted his leg and kicked over the table in front of her bed. The bowls and jars on the table, as well as the soup and water, spilled all over the floor, dirtying the beautiful carpet. Someone come! He loudly shouted, his voice shaking the roof. Servants immediately ran in with a look of fear and knelt on the ground. Take this woman. He pointed at Chen Ning, filled with rage. But when his eyes fell onto her face, he found that she had closed her eyes, not even looking at him. Although she had eaten and drunk the blood-replenishing soup, her face was still white to the point of being transparent. It was like fine porcelain, light and thin, making his heart soften. The servants all opened their eyes wide as they waited for his orders. Take away all the chefs that made food for this woman and give each of them 20 whips. What kind of crappy food is this? It's just too disgusting. After he finished shouting, he took large steps and left without looking back. When his footsteps could no longer be heard, Chen Ning finally opened her eyes. Looking at the embroidered curtains on top of the bed, her lips curled into a faint smile. However, the smile quickly disappeared from her face. She gave a soft sigh and closed her eyes once again. Na Mu Kyo was a very smart person and could be said to be evenly matched with her. In a battle of wits with him, she had to focus 120% to gain the upper hand. At the same time, she had to be on guard against him setting traps for her. He really was a hard man to deal with. It was a good thing that she had achieved her goal of getting close to him this time. She had learned how to observe and now she just needed to practice. She wanted to leave this place, but under Na Mu Kyo's shadow, it was hard for her to calm down and think carefully. Pang! A loud sound came from outside the window, making her jump in fright. Through the paper window, she saw a dazzling red light rise into the sky and her heart couldn't help skipping a beat. Could it be that someone was setting off fireworks? She sat up on the bed, grabbed a cloak, and put it on. She walked to the window and pushed it open. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Flowers bloomed in the night sky once again and a rain of petals fell. One after another, the meteors rose into the air, bloomed, and withered. The most beautiful thing is also the easiest to disappear. The moment you see it, it has already started to disappear from your eyes. Although fireworks are beautiful, they are too sad. That's why when I'm alone, I never look at fireworks. These fireworks are all set off for you. A magnetic voice rang out like the gurgling of water. It was as beautiful and moving as a poem. She looked above it and she heard it. She was so engrossed that she didn't even know when he had appeared beside her. This time, he did not look at her. Instead, he stared at the dazzling flowers in the sky. He was no longer angry. His face was calm, but his eyes were slightly sad. Chapter 633. The hardest thing to obtain is also the most precious. I don't like fireworks, but I like you. Can you stay by my side and be with me forever? In the sky filled with fireworks, he slightly lowered his head. His eyes were focused on her as he spoke with a sincere voice. He didn't have his usual aloof and arrogant tone. His words did not move her, but his voice had a bewitching charm to it. It was like the love song he sang, making it hard for people to resist. She looked down and said in a soft voice, "You like me because my eyes look like Yulisian. But let me tell you, I am not Yulisian. There is only one Yulisian in this world, but she is already dead. She liked another person and you couldn't accept it, so you killed her. Although I am not Yulisian, I am the same as her, liking another person. Moreover, once I like someone, I will not change my mind. I will wholeheartedly love him, and even if a good man appears in front of me, I will not like him, including you, Na Mu Kyo." Na Mu Kyo's chin tightened and his brows slowly lowered. A trace of anger appeared at the corner of his eyes. "The man you like, is he the emperor of your West Chu country? Do you know that even if he is the emperor, in front of this prince, he still has to be respectful and lower his head to this prince? Tell me, if this prince asks him for you, will he give you to this prince?" Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat. Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat. She looked up and stared at him. "You can try. You are quite confident in him. You still have some value to him now, so of course he won't agree. But what if you lose to this prince after tomorrow's competition? Do you think he will still care about you and treat you like a treasure? To him, you are just a useless tool. When this prince asks him for you at that time, do you think he will agree?" Na Mu Kyo looked at her with smiling eyes. "Tomorrow. Is tomorrow the day of the competition?" She sucked in a breath of cold air. "Did I sleep for a day and a night?" "That's right. Do you still think you can beat me now? Because you saved me, I am willing to give you a chance. If you agree, I can deliberately lose to you in tomorrow's competition and let you gain face in front of everyone. If you don't agree, the result will be the same, but you will become a gift from the West Chu Emperor to this prince. Little beauty, you are very smart. Which one will you choose?" He looked at her with a smile, looking very confident. Chen Ning bit her lower lip and stared at him. Na Mu Kyo, I want to openly compete with you and I will definitely win. If I win, you have to promise me one thing. Your Highness, you won't regret it, right? He rubbed his smooth chin and knit his brows. You really want to lose? Wrong, I want to win. You can't win, he said conceitedly. Then let's wait and see tomorrow. Your Highness, I want to leave this place. You won't stop me, right? Then we'll wait and see tomorrow. Your Highness, I want to leave this place, you won't stop me, right? She was like a pigeon with its legs tied up. No matter how far she flew, as long as that string was in his hand, she would fly back and land in his palms sooner or later. Chapter 634. What's yours? He blinked. That imperial edict. Na Mu Kyo said in a strange voice, isn't the one you love the emperor? What do you want that he won't give to you? Why do you care about this imperial edict? Could it be he isn't completely devoted to you? Chen Ning said with a serious face, Your Highness, your curiosity is too strong. This is a matter between me and him, it has nothing to do with you. Ze, I just think that you have eyes but cannot see, loving the wrong person. Just like Yili Xian, loving a bastard that isn't worth loving at all. Her face sunk, even if he is a bastard, as long as I like him, he is the man that is worth loving the most in this world. Is your Highness satisfied with this answer? Good, satisfied, very satisfied. He revealed a smile that was filled with confidence. I will let you personally see and hear with your own ears how he will send you into this prince's embrace. That day will never come. She raised her head. Since it's like this prince will send you to see the person you love. If you have anything to say, then tell him. Because after tomorrow, you will be this prince's woman. Ha, 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 ha. He gave a proud laugh and called over the servants, ordering them to prepare a carriage to send her out. She changed back into her original clothes and held the imperial edict in her bosom, just like when she came. When she walked out of the room, Na Mu Kyo was standing in the courtyard, his tall and burly figure stretched out by the moonlight. His face was facing the moonlight, his deep and striking features, which were originally sharp and threatening, became gentle because of the moonlight. He looked like he was waiting for his beloved lover. Chen Ning walked past him without looking at him, not even looking at him. Ah Ning. Suddenly, she heard his deep, beautiful voice behind her. I'll wait for you to come back. His voice was very low as a whisper. She believed that only she could hear these words. However, she did not turn around or stop walking, just walking straight ahead. This was not a place she wanted to stay, so how could she come back? Never. Where her heart was, that was where she wanted to stay. A beautiful and enchanting song rang out. This was Na Mu Kyo's song. It was low and gentle, filled with magnetism. This song even intoxicated the moonlight and the night became blurred because of his song. The song seemed to be telling a story. A proud young man fell in love with a beautiful young girl. They ran across the prairies, chasing each other, playing, and laughing at every corner of the prairies. Then one day, the young man suddenly disappeared and the young man stood on the prairies. Day after day, year after year, he waited. He sang this sad song, waiting for the young girl until her hair turned white. She walked out of the courier house's main entrance in one breath. The deep and touching song still lingered in her ears, especially the last few melodious notes, which were full of pain and expectation. Listening to it in the quiet night, it made her heart tremble. The corner of her eyes felt itchy and hot. She reached out to touch it and actually felt her hand full of moisture. Unknowingly, she had been moved to tears by his singing. Chen Ning quickened her steps, becoming faster and faster as she began to run. She covered her ears until she could not hear a single trace of that demonic song. She panted as she leaned against the wall, calming her heart that was being shaken by the song. Chapter 635. Ah! She gave a short cry of shock and suddenly turned around. Her eyes met a pair of eyes that were like cold stars. For a moment, she thought that she was in a dream. How could she see Mo Chuan? Impossible, impossible. She wanted to reach out to rub her eyes, but in the next moment, she was tightly held in a warm and familiar embrace. That cool and familiar aura came over. It was the smell of Mo Chuan. She greedily breathed in and wrapped her arms around his waist. His waist was very strong, and because of her embrace, his arms tightened, holding her even tighter. Ning, I've waited here for you for a long, long time. You're finally here. His voice sounded in her ears, filled with pain and passion. His large hand stroked her smooth hair and he closed his eyes. The joy of regaining what he had lost completely drowned him. The two of them tightly hugged each other, no one saying a word. After an unknown amount of time, he finally let go of his arms. She looked up in his embrace and the faint moonlight shined on her beautiful face. Her eyes that were like the spring fog and autumn moon sparkled, with long eyelashes that were wet. She looked at him without blinking, looking at his familiar handsome face. His eyes that were like the mountains in the distance. His eyes were even deeper than the night sky, filled with endless emotions that made her deeply immersed in them. He lowered his head and kissed her lips. It was just a gentle touch at first, but after that, he couldn't control himself. His kiss became hot and intense. That heat passed through her lips to her heart, making her face turn red and her heart beat faster. She couldn't breathe and couldn't speak. The two of them held each other's breaths as they hugged each other. Their heads touched and their lips touched. Her arms wrapped around his neck, and he hugged her slender waist tightly, almost hugging her whole body in his arms. The world was spinning and her heart was in ecstasy. She couldn't think after being kissed by him. In a daze, the arms around his neck powerlessly fell and her body also softened. Mo Chuan's arms wrapped around her, stopping her from falling down. He reluctantly moved his lips away from hers. His eyes fell onto her face and his heart suddenly tightened. Her eyes were tightly closed and her lips were bright red from his kiss, but her face was very pale, almost like snow. He had never seen her face this white before. Was she sick? Or was she injured? Asleep? Or fainted? He rubbed her nose and found that her breathing was normal, but she had lost consciousness and was softly lying in his embrace. Could she have fainted from his kiss? When Mo Chuan thought of this possibility, his face turned hot. He was indeed a little too enthusiastic just now. The kind of enthusiasm that came from the bottom of his heart burned his whole body, making him completely unaware of what he was doing. He was like a lion that had been imprisoned for a long time and suddenly broke out of its cage. Then, he became unscrupulous and tyrannical. That intoxicating feeling made his brain feel like it was about to explode, and he couldn't care about anything else. He actually ignored her feelings. He tenderly kissed her lips. His arms held her soft as cotton body, letting her sleep more comfortably in his embrace. Chapter 636. Turning around, Mo Chuan prepared to carry her away. But as soon as he turned around, his eyes froze. On the other side of the alley, there was a tall and burly figure silently standing there. It was unknown how long he had been standing there and how long he had been looking at her. His back was facing the moonlight and he was wearing black tight-fitting clothes. His black cloak was like the wings of a black eagle, dancing in the wind. Seeing this figure, Mo Chuan's eyes turned as cold as ice and his arms holding her unknowingly tightened. Although Na Mu Kyo did not say a single word, Mo Chuan knew who he was. Just like how Na Mu Kyo knew who he was. The two of them stared at each other. They were separated by several feet, but there was an undercurrent flowing between them. Humph. Finally, Na Mu Kyo gave a cold snort. His sharp and cold eyes slowly moved from Imo Chuan's face to look at her in his embrace. She was so quiet that she looked like she was asleep, but the corners of her lips were slightly curled up, bringing with it an intoxicating sweetness and smile. This was something he had never seen on her face in the past 3 days. It was a sincere smile that came from the bottom of her heart. So when she was facing the man she truly liked, she would smile this sweetly and this enchanting. It was like a heavy hammer, slamming into his heart. He felt a bitter and astringent taste in his mouth. Na Mu Kyo suddenly turned around and left with large steps. His black figure quickly disappeared into the night, disappearing without a trace like a ghost. Imo Chuan looked at his back as he left and his dark eyes sank. This man that suddenly appeared gave off a strong sense of oppression. He was like a wild beast waiting for an opportunity, staring at her like a tiger. He couldn't help holding her tightly, like if he let go, she would be taken away by someone else. His eyes suddenly fell onto her wrists and his breathing couldn't help becoming tight. Her wrists were wrapped in thick bandages and there were faint traces of blood on them. It was clear that she was injured. Imo Chuan's heart filled with pain as he held her and quickly left. Chen Ning had slept for an unknown amount of time. Because of the large amount of blood loss and the large amount of brain training she had done that night, her mind was in a very tense state, not having a good rest at all. Especially when she saw Imo Chuan before she fainted, it made her mind relax. Therefore, she slept very soundly and soundly. She didn't even have any dreams. She finally woke up and opened her eyes. She was in a very happy mood as she blurted out, "Imo Chuan." She remembered his wild and fiery kiss that made it hard for her to breathe. Then she felt the world spin around her and she didn't know anything else. Now that she thought about it, she still felt her face heat up. His kisses had always been gentle and lingering, but she never thought that when he became passionate, he would be so crazy, as if they were parting forever. Paw, what nonsense was he thinking? How could he think of these 4 inauspicious words? Pay. Xiao Ru was lying in front of her bed, sleeping in a daze. Suddenly hearing Chen Ning's voice, she woke up from her dream and was pleasantly surprised. Chen Ning blinked. Chen Ning blinked. Looking at the disheveled Xiao Ru, she felt that it was kind and unreal. She found that when she woke up, she had returned to the eldest princess palace. Did Imo Chuan send her back? Chapter 637. Xiao Ru, what time is it now? She suddenly sat up on the bed, but because she was too fast, she felt a wave of dizziness and her body swayed. Xiao Ru quickly supported her and placed a soft pillow behind her, letting her lean against it. Then she took out a hot towel and wiped her face as she chattered away. It's 2:45 in the morning right now. Young miss, you can't move around. The doctor has seen your illness and said that you are lacking blood, so you need to rest in bed. Young miss, I haven't seen you in a few days, how did you become this skinny? Last night, Qian Duo. Oh, no, it was the emperor. When the emperor sent you back, your face did not have a single trace of blood, this servant was almost scared to death. It was a good thing the emperor said that you only fainted and he even invited the doctor to take your pulse. That's right, the doctor said that you have to drink your medicine as soon as you wake up, this servant will go get the medicine for you. Xiao Ru threw the towel away and quickly ran out. Chen Ning didn't even have time to ask her a few more questions. 2:45 in the morning. She remembered that Na Mu Kyo said that today was the day of the competition between East Qin and West Chu. The time was at noon and the location was at the eastern field, so she could still make it in time. Xiao Ru quickly came back, holding a bowl of steaming hot medicine. She carefully blew on it before placing it in front of Chen Ning's lips. "Young miss, quickly drink your medicine, this is the Emperor's order. He said that if you don't drink your medicine, he will. Xiao Ru tilted her head and thought of something before saying, "He said that he will personally feed it to you." After saying this, she couldn't help muttering, "This servant doesn't understand what the Emperor means, but the Emperor said that the young miss will understand." Chen Ning's face turned a little red. Of course she knew what Imo Chuan meant. "I'll drink it." She took the bowl and drank it in one gulp. Giving the bowl of medicine to Xiao Ru, she closed her eyes to rest for a bit before saying, "Xiao Ru, help me get a set of hunting clothes. I'm going out." She pulled off the blanket and prepared to get out of bed. "Young miss, the Emperor and the doctor have said that you can't get out of bed right now and you can't walk around. You have to lie down and you can't go anywhere." Xiao Ru was shocked and quickly supported her. "I have a very important matter to do today. No matter how important it is, it can't be compared to the young miss body." Chen Ning's face sunk. "Xiao Ru, when did you become so disrespectful? You don't even listen to me." She acted like a master. No matter how unwilling Xiao Ru was, she still obediently took out a set of hunting clothes and placed it in front of the bed. She got off the bed and her body swayed. Xiao Ru quickly supported her and complained, "Young miss, the doctor said you can't get off the bed, you." "Xiao Ru, help me get dressed." Chen Ning interrupted her and slightly knit her brows. She was very dissatisfied with her current self. How could she ride a horse when she was so weak and fragile? If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have sacrificed so much blood to save Na Mu Kuo. With Xiao Ru's help, she finally put on her clothes and sat in front of the dresser. She saw her pale face in the mirror without a trace of blood. She did not like her sickly appearance, so she picked up the rouge she had never used before and lightly rubbed it on her cheeks, making her look even more beautiful. Xiao Ru blurted out, "Young miss, you look really good like this." Chapter 638. The sun shined brightly and there were no clouds in the sky. On the eastern field, the flags fluttered. This was the first day of the West Chu and East Qin competition. There were two stands built on the large eastern field, one on the left and one on the right. There was a canopy on the stands that blocked the sun and there were several dozen chairs placed on each side. The official competition time was set at noon, but when it was just past noon, the West Chu ministers had already arrived on the left stands. Each one of them had a worried look on their faces as they whispered to each other. There were two seats in the middle with a dragon and phoenix engraved on them. These two seats were prepared for Empress Dowager Zhou and the Emperor. Not long after, under the escort of the Imperial Army, Mo Chuan rode his horse in front and Empress Dowager Zhou's carriage in the back, appearing in front of the ministers. The ministers all stood up. Mo Chuan dismounted his horse and personally helped Empress Dowager Zhou off the sedan. Then he helped Empress Dowager Zhou step by step onto the high platform. "Greetings to the Emperor, Empress Dowager." The ministers all shouted out. "Everyone, no need to be so polite." Mo Chuan helped Empress Dowager Zhou into the phoenix chair. He looked over at the stands on the other side and saw that it was completely empty, without a single person. His heart was a bit surprised. The East Qin envoys haven't arrived yet. His brows slightly knit as he looked at the hourglass on the side. There was less than an hour left until noon. Could these East Qin people really have confidence in winning and they didn't need to prepare ahead of time? Reporting to the Emperor, the news this servant has heard is that the East Qin envoys left the guest post early in the morning and left the city. They haven't returned yet and they haven't said a single word, so we don't know what happened. Xiao Si bowed as he replied. Left the city. When Mo Chuan heard this, he felt this was unbelievable. When the ministers heard this, they all began to make guesses. Time slowly passed and it was getting closer and closer to noon, but not a single person from the East Qin envoys had appeared. The West Chu ministers all stood up and looked at the gate of the field, their hearts almost jumping out of their throats. In the large eastern field, other than the ministers, there were also several thousand royal guards, but everyone was holding their breath. The field was completely silent, even a pin drop could be heard. This was because according to the agreement, as long as one side didn't arrive at the time of the competition, it would be considered the winner. After a while, seeing that the sun was about to rise to the middle of the sky, some of the ministers could no longer contain their excitement and began to discuss spiritedly. Ha, ha, it seems like East Qin is afraid of our West Chu country, so they didn't fight. That's right, how could they not say a single word and leave? In my opinion, their East Qin clearly knows they can't win against our King Jing'an, so they ran back to their country with their tails between their legs. Ha, makes sense, makes sense. At this moment, a loud dong was heard, followed by the sound of a huge cannon salute. This was the first cannon shot. As long as the East Qin envoys did not appear after the third cannon shot, it would be equivalent to them forfeiting. Hundreds of pairs of eyes looked at the gate of the East drill ground, but there was no one there. The minister's laughter. Even Empress Dowager Zhou's brows couldn't help slightly twitching. Her tense face also softened. She had been on tenterhooks for the past few days and was most worried about this moment. Chapter 639. Mo Chuan shook his head. His eyes were glued to the field gates as he clenched his fists and said word for word, he will definitely not give up. What did he mean? Empress Dowager Zhou was stunned. She found that she couldn't understand her son at all. Dong! After the second cannon salute, the East Qin envoys still disappeared without a trace. The ministers were all excited as they clapped and laughed. There were already people congratulating Empress Dowager Zhou and Mo Chuan. Congratulations Emperor, congratulations Empress Dowager. Our West Chu has already won the first round. Mo Chuan knit his brows and said in a deep voice, it's not even noon yet, it's still too early to say victory. He thought of Na Mu Kyo's determined gaze when he looked at Qin Ning last night and his heart tightened. He did not believe that Na Mu Kyo would easily admit defeat like this. The ministers were all stunned. At this time, there was the sound of horse hooves coming from the distance. The horse hooves were heading straight for the field, coming closer and closer with a very fast speed. It was like there were several dozen horses running together. Although they were running fast, they were moving in unison, with several hundred horse hooves landing on the ground at the same time. The faces of the people present couldn't help changing. Even those who didn't understand horsemanship could hear that it was very difficult for several dozen horses to maintain the same rhythm and landing on the ground at the same time. With a dong sound, the third cannon salute finally rang out. At the same time, a vigorous black horse galloped into the gate of the East drill ground. The rider was wearing a black cloak that fluttered behind him like a pair of black wings. A man and a horse, like a black lightning bolt, galloped into the drill ground, followed closely by dozens of people on horseback. They were all dressed in the same black tight-fitting clothes, revealing their strong and burly figures. Hundreds of horse hooves galloped together, raising billowing smoke and dust on the track of the drill ground. The people in the stands couldn't help turning pale. The riding skills of this group of black-clothed people and their coordination was amazing. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, it would be hard to imagine that there was this kind of riding and coordination in this world. It was said that the East Qin people grew up on horses, but now they knew that seeing was believing and the rumors were not false. When he first saw the black-clothed man charge into the field, Mo Chuan's pupils shrank. His eyes were glued to the man's face the entire time, revealing an unconcealable anger and hatred. Last night, when the Grand Doctor had taken off the thick gauze wrapping around her wrists, he had seen a shocking scene. There were 2 deep wounds. Although the wounds were no longer bleeding after applying ointment, he could tell how deep the wounds were. Moreover, the cuts were on the blood vessels of her wrists. One could imagine how much blood she had lost at that time. No wonder her face was that pale, no wonder her body was weak, no wonder she was that weak, no wonder she was that weak, no wonder she had fainted. It was because of this. She didn't even need to think about it to know that these 2 deep wounds were caused by this man. Just how ruthless did he have to be to do such a thing to her? He would use this kind of cruel method to torture her. At that time, he was so angry that he wanted to rush into the post house and kill that man. He did not know how much strength he had to use to control himself and not make a move. He couldn't kill this man because he was the high and mighty East Qin crown prince. He was the mysterious envoy sent by East Qin to the West Chu country. Chapter 640. As the West Chu emperor, he could not disregard the West Chu citizens for his own selfishness. He could not break the peace between the 2 countries for her alone and let the flames of war reignite between the 2 countries. He could not let the previous East Qin emperor's head fall to the ground because of his own selfishness. So he could only endure it. Na Mu Kyo's black horse ran under the stands and suddenly stopped. Its 4 hooves were nailed to the ground, not moving at all. Once this exquisite riding skill was revealed, the West Chu stands erupted with cheers. Na Mu Kyo looked up and his sharp features gave off a sharp aura. He slowly looked over the West Chu stands like he was looking for someone. Mo Chuan's right hand in his sleeve slowly clenched into a fist as his eyes stared at him without blinking. The 2 people's eyes met in the air. Instantly there was a flash of light and sparks flew in all directions. Mo Chuan's face was as deep as water. His handsome face was filled with a gloomy aura. Na Mu Kyo slightly raised his chin with a proud expression. He did not put Mo Chuan, the West Chu emperor, in his eyes at all. He gave a disdainful snort and looked away from Mo Chuan's face, continuing to look around the stands. He quickly looked around and did not find Qin Ning's figure. His 2 thick brows couldn't help knit together. Why did he not see her? Didn't they say that she was the one who was going to compete with him today? Could it be she wasn't? Na Mu Kyo dismounted his horse and took large steps, walking onto the West Chu stands. The group of officials immediately let out a low buzz, one after another trying to guess his origins. His aura was extraordinary and behind him was the East Qin envoys. Even the East Qin envoys were behind him, so it could be seen that his identity was not simple. But during the banquet that night, this person did not appear. Who was he? Mo Chuan did not even look at the discussions around him or the ministers. He went up to the stands and directly walked over to Mo Chuan. He stopped 3 steps in front of him and placed his right hand on his left chest. He gave a slight nod to Mo Chuan and slowly said, Simiganlatu. His voice was low and beautiful, but no one could understand the words he said. It could be assumed that he was speaking in the East Qin language. Although they couldn't understand his words, seeing his arrogant and condescending expression, the West Chu ministers couldn't help feeling angry. No matter what the other side's background was, not kneeling in front of the emperor and not bowing at all, this was simply too humiliating. A translator walked forward 2 steps and slightly bowed to Mo Chuan before saying, Respected Emperor, this is my East Qin country's crown prince, Na Mu Kyo. He has just greeted your majesty. The news of the East Qin crown prince coming to West Chu was only known to Mo Chuan and a few trusted ministers. Most of the people here did not know. When they heard the translation, they all took in a cold breath and their eyes looking at Na Mu Kyo became filled with respect. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Although this was Na Mu Kyo's first time visiting West Chu, his title as the smartest person in the world had already spread across the 4 countries. It could be said that no one didn't know of him. So when the ministers heard that this arrogant eagle-like man in front of them was the East Qin crown prince, their faces couldn't help changing. Chapter 641. Everyone couldn't help looking at Chu Xiaobai. Chu Xiaobai already knew that the other side was the East Qin crown prince. He slowly stood up from his chair and coldly looked at Na Muqiu. It's him. It's him who kidnapped Ning from his side, it's him. Thinking of last night when he saw the wound on her wrist, although Mo Chuan did not blame him, he was so ashamed that he almost wanted to kill himself. He hated himself for letting her follow the wolf even though he knew that Na Muqiu was an evil wolf. In the end, she was bitten and riddled with scars. If he knew that it would be like this, he would have stopped her no matter what, even if it went against her heart. Seeing Na Muqiu at this time and thinking that he was the one who harmed Ning, how could he not hate him? His hands tightly clenched into fists and his chest felt like it was going to explode, as a burst of anger filled his chest. His robe was as white as snow and he was like a jade tree, dazzling the crowd, but his eyes were filled with flames of anger. So it's him. Na Muqiu recognized Chu Xiaobai with a single glance. It was the beautiful youth that accompanied her on the night of the Lantern Festival. His eyes slightly narrowed and instantly became sharp. He looked over Chu Xiaobai a few times and gave a soft snort, revealing a look of contempt on his face. But although his face was filled with disdain, he couldn't help thinking that the West Chu people were not all weak chickens. That emperor called Mo Chuan had such a good appearance and his martial arts skills were not weak, no wonder she fell in love with him. As for the beautiful youth in front of him, he was as beautiful as a painting. But he noticed that Chu Xiaobai's eyes were shining, like he was also a martial arts expert. But he was not afraid at all. In terms of martial arts, he did not believe that there was anyone stronger than him in this world. As long as he defeated these two enemies in front of her, he wasn't afraid she wouldn't fall in love with him. But what about her? Why didn't he see her? Could it be that the person sent by the West Chu country to compete with him was not her? His eyes were like a torch as he looked over the people in the stands, but he only saw two women. One was the white-haired and dignified Empress Dowager Zhou and the other was a girl in her 20s. She was dressed luxuriously, wearing a dazzling red dress that gave off a heroic aura, but he did not see Qin Ning's figure. Colosimuli. Na Muqiu couldn't help asking with a look of doubt in his eyes. He was asking the translator standing behind him. The translator was bowing like a dog, but when he turned around to face the West Chu ministers, he immediately became arrogant as he puffed out his chest. Don't worry, I won't be able to answer your question. My family's crown prince wants to know, who are you sending to compete with him today? His West Chu language was very clear, but that arrogant look almost made everyone's lungs explode. Xiao Chen's words were very well. He was just a translator. Who was he putting on such an arrogant face for? Qiu Xiao Ti's Qing. Even if the other side was just a little translator, he was still someone by the East Qin crown prince's side. As a defeated country, they could never raise their heads in front of East Qin. They couldn't even offend a dog by the other side. Xiao Chen's choose prince. Chen's emote him. Chapter 642. He took a step forward and said in a cold voice, I've long heard of the title of the smartest person in the world, but the rumors are false, so this king wants to personally meet His Highness and ask the crown prince for advice. Na Muqiu's eyes fell onto him again. With a contemptuous snort, he spoke in the East Qin language again. Although he could not understand it, Chu Xiaobai could hear the taunting tone in his voice. It's you. What kind of thing are you? Are you worthy of competing with this prince? The translator dutifully translated Na Muqiu's words without missing a single word. Even his tone was impeccable. When his voice fell, the faces of the West Chu ministers all changed, becoming extremely ugly. It was like someone had slapped them in the face. The other side did not even put their King Jing-en in his eyes and even called him a thing, but none of them dared to say a single word and no one dared to refute him. It was all because the other side held their weakness in their hands that the other side had no fear. Chu Xiaobai's long brows jumped up. He suddenly reached out and heavily slapped the translator's mouth. The translator made a wah sound and spat out a mouthful of blood, as well as 2 white teeth. The West Chu ministers' hearts trembled as they looked at Chu Xiaobai in disbelief. No one thought that Chu Xiaobai would teach the translator a lesson. Although everyone wanted to slap him, they had to look at the master before hitting the dog. Hitting the translator was the same as slapping the East Qin crown prince's face. Even if they wanted to, they didn't have the guts. Although this slap could vent their anger, what would the consequences be? Everyone secretly shook their heads in their hearts. They thought that King Jing-en was still young and impulsive, not being able to keep his cool. This time he would be in big trouble. As expected, the translator immediately jumped up and pointed at Chu Xiaobai's nose as he shouted, You dare hit me? You. Do you not want your life? Chu Xiaobai said with a cold laugh, This king is teaching you a lesson on behalf of the crown prince. What kind of thing do you think you are, daring to call yourself this prince? You are clearly humiliating the crown prince in front of everyone. Translate every word this king says to the crown prince. I believe that with a smart person like the crown prince, he will be able to tell right from wrong. This king wants to see whose head the crown prince will give the order to chop off. In the royal family's courtyard on the outskirts, he had personally heard Na Mu Kyo speak fluent West Chu language. Not only could he understand it, he could also speak it. Although Chu Xiaobai did not understand why Na Mu Kyo acted like he didn't understand and couldn't speak in front of everyone, he knew in his heart that Na Mu Kyo could understand. So his words were meant for Na Mu Kyo to hear and also for him to see. He wanted to see how long this arrogant East Qin crown prince could keep acting. Na Mu Kyo's eyes focused on Chu Xiaobai's face. He didn't expect this kid to be such a powerful character. He had underestimated him. You. The translator's face turned green with anger, but his mouth was blocked by Chu Xiaobai's words. How could he have the guts to translate? What, you don't dare? Chu Xiaobai looked at him with cold eyes. Chapter 643. When the West Chu ministers saw this, they all cheered for Chu Xiaobai in their hearts, feeling very satisfied. Empress Dowager Zhou was in a depressed mood, but she couldn't help revealing a faint smile at this time. Her eyes filled with praise as she looked at Chu Xiaobai. This king has always heard that East Qin is a large country, a country of etiquette, but seeing it once is better than hearing it 100 times. I never thought that although the crown prince is a talented person, the people around him do not understand etiquette at all. Not bowing to my country's emperor and not kneeling down, this kind of rude behavior, truly throwing away the face of the East Qin country's ruler. Chu Xiaobai coldly said again. Hearing this, the translator's face turned from red to white. He had indeed used the prestige of the crown prince to not bow to the West Chu emperor, but Chu Xiaobai had pointed out his mistake in front of everyone. He couldn't help revealing an awkward expression as he secretly looked at Na Mu Kyo, not knowing what to do. As an envoy, your every word and action represents your country's dignity and style. This translator did not bow to my country's emperor, but do you not bow to your country's ruler? Chu Xiaobai's words were sharp and aggressive. The translator was speechless and could not reply. Lakalideli. Na Mu Kyo suddenly spoke out, saying several East Qin words in one breath. His cold eyes looked at the translator. The translator could not raise his head from the criticism, but after hearing Na Mu Kyo's words, he raised his head and became like a proud rooster. He raised his chin and said, The customs of each country are different, so the etiquette is also different. For example, in my country, we only need to bow to people of high status and that is the most respectful etiquette, but your country needs to kowtow to the emperor. My East Chin men have gold under their knees, we will never kneel to others, even if we are facing your country's emperor, we cannot. I have already bowed to your country's emperor according to my East Chin country's etiquette. As for kowtowing, that is a completely unreasonable request. When the ministers heard this, they knew that it was purely sophistry and their chests were filled with rage. They could all see that the translator's attitude had suddenly become strong. It was clear that he had been instructed by the East Chin crown prince. What did this mean? The East Chin crown prince could understand the West Chu language. But he clearly understood it, but he pretended like he didn't understand. He wanted the translator to repeat every word. What kind of situation was this? Everyone was completely puzzled. Chu Xiaobai said with a cold smile, "That's right, the customs of our two countries are different, but I believe you've heard of the phrase, 'do as the Romans do,' before, right? Since you've come to my West Chu country, you have to follow my West Chu country's rules. This is a matter of heaven and earth. My West Chu country's way of showing respect is to kneel down. If you really respect my country, you should follow my country's etiquette. Your country regards kneeling as a humiliation, but to us, this is the highest respect." As soon as he finished speaking, he won a round of applause from the officials. King Jing'an is a King Jing'an words is right. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well said. The translator's face alternated between red and white. He stole another glance at Na Mu Kuo, hoping to receive pointers from the crown prince. Na Mu Kuo's lips were tightly pressed together, his face was expressionless and he did not say a word. Chapter 644. Of course Na Mu Kuo knew that he was being rude, but how could he bow to these West Chu people that he didn't even put in his eyes? He could not do it no matter what. Chu Xiaobai naturally knew that it was impossible for the East Chin crown prince to kneel to Mo Chuan, but if even a little translator by the crown prince's side didn't kneel to the emperor, once this matter was spread, the West Chu country would become a laughing stock. His cold eyes looked at the translator and he said, "Sir translator, since you are familiar with the customs of the two countries, you should know that in my West Chu, kneeling is respected and in your country, taking off your hat is respected. If my country sends an envoy to your country to see your country's emperor and refuses to take off his hat, what will your country's emperor do? Do you think he will give the order to cut off my country's envoy's head?" The translator's body trembled. When he looked at Na Mu Kuo again, his back was covered in a cold sweat. According to the customs, he should indeed kneel down to the West Chu emperor, but he had received the orders of the crown prince. He wanted to give them a show of strength in front of the West Chu ministers and give them face, so they wouldn't dare resist. But he never thought that a King Jing'an would jump out. This young man was young and had a beautiful appearance, but his lips were like spears and his tongue was like arrows. Every word he said hit his sore spot. Na Mu Kuo took a deep look at Chu Xiaobai, looking at him in a new light. He nodded to the interpreter very slowly. With the crown prince's orders, the translator let out a sigh of relief. He bent his knees and kneeled down to Mo Chuan. He followed the West Chu customs, kneeling down 3 times and kowtowing 9 times. The East Chin envoy greets the emperor and wishes the emperor a long and peaceful life. The envoy is a guest from afar, you may rise. Mo Chuan said in a soft voice. The translator finally stood up and took 2 steps back, standing behind Na Mu Kuo in a well-behaved manner. The arrogant expression on his face had disappeared quite a bit. The West Chu ministers all felt their faces light up and they couldn't help giving Chu Xiaobai a thumbs up in their hearts. King Jing'an's words were very reasonable, making this arrogant translator kneel down to the emperor with just a few words. This was truly beautiful. Na Mu Kuo couldn't help giving a snort. He did not care about this little fight, but the person he wanted to see had not appeared yet, so his heart was a bit anxious. Jiranamaba. He said some gibberish East Chin language to the translator. The translator nodded and bowed in agreement. He turned his head and translated Na Mu Kyo's words out loud. My Royal Highness the Crown Prince said that it's getting late. Let's start the competition that we've agreed on. My country's Royal Highness the Crown Prince is going to fight. I wonder who will your country send? I don't know if your ears are bad or your eyes are bad. Didn't this king just say that? This prince wishes to challenge your country's crown prince and see who's better. Xiao Ti Chu curled his and said. How could the translator not know that he was scolding his master in a roundabout way? His face slightly reddened and he translated these words for Na Mu Kyo to hear. In fact, Na Mu Kyo did not need him to translate, he had already heard everything clearly. He didn't know what had happened. Why was it that he was supposed to compete with her, but the person suddenly changed? However, the result was the same. No matter who it was, they would lose without a doubt. Chapter 645. Na Mu Kyo arrogantly nodded. After saying a few words in the East Chin language, he turned around and walked down the stairs with large steps. His black cloak fluttered behind him and in the blink of an eye, he was back on his extraordinary black horse. He held his head high and his figure on the back of the horse seemed even more tall and straight. My family's crown prince said that no matter who is competing, we should immediately begin. The translator translated Na Mu Kyo's words. Chu Xiaobai nodded. When he was prepared to leave the stands, he heard the translator say, the crown prince said that for the sake of fairness, this stone tablet will be written in both countries' languages. Half will be East Chin and the other half will be West Chu. I think your country has no objections, right? Hearing this, Chu Xiaobai's footsteps stopped and he turned around. Even Mo Chuan's eyes narrowed and his heart became heavy. The West Chu ministers couldn't help whispering. Everyone felt that something was wrong, but they couldn't say what was wrong. Only Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai knew that the East Chin crown prince was speaking about fairness on the surface, but he was actually digging a large and deep pit for the West Chu country. Because when the East Chin country had proposed the reading the steel from a horse method, they were all shocked by this almost impossible competition, completely ignoring the difference in the two languages. Only when the translator said this did everyone wake up. But they couldn't refute this suggestion because they couldn't find a single reason. The eyes of the people in the stands looking at Na Mu Kyo filled with respect and fear once again. This East Chin crown prince was truly the smartest person in the world. Like this, their East Chin was already in an invincible position. This was because everyone could see that the East Chin crown prince could understand the West Chu language, so it was very likely he could understand the West Chu language. But what about King Jing'an? He didn't understand their East Chin language or language at all. With this, it was clear who was better and who was worse. It could be said that without even needing to compete, they had already lost 99% of the time. Xiaobai, do you understand the East Chin language? Mo Chuan said in a deep voice. Chu Xiaobai slightly shook his head. This minister doesn't understand, but this minister will try his best. This minister must win, for the citizens and for her. He clenched his fists tightly, his eyes firm and resolute. He turned around and strode down the stairs, mounting a snow-white steed. Xiaobai, royal aunt believes that you can win. The eldest princess charged into the stands and shouted at him from below the stands. Chu Xiaobai raised his head and revealed a faint smile at the eldest princess Xiaobai. Chu Xiaobai looked up and revealed an incomparably brilliant smile at the eldest princess. Of the Chu Xiao Chu. The translator loudly said, His Highness said that the words on the stone tablet can be written by your country and the contents can be chosen by your country, but it has to be half East Chin and half West Chu. He said that he wants you to lose convincingly. Hearing this, the West Chu people all revealed looks of anger. Even Empress Dowager Zhou, who had good self-control, couldn't help slamming her cane down and saying in a low voice, "What is this?" The envoys in the East Qin stands were all filled with praise. Chapter 646. Mo Chuan's eyes swept over the ministers and fell onto a single person. "Husband Yi," he slowly said. "This commoner is here." Yiting Xian immediately stood up and walked in front of the emperor, bowing down. He did not have an official position, but everyone knew that he was the future husband, so the emperor and the eldest princess looked at him favorably. So although he was a commoner, he could still participate in politics. "This one knows that you are knowledgeable and have some knowledge of East Qin's language. Your calligraphy can be considered one of the best in the capital, so this stone tablet will be personally written by you. As for the content, you can decide for yourself. This commoner will follow your orders." Yiting Xian never thought that Mo Chuan would place this heavy burden on his shoulders. He suddenly felt like it was hard to breathe, but he couldn't reject it. The eldest princess' eyes lit up. She returned to Yiting Xian's side and heavily patted his shoulder. "Ting Xian, write it well. You have to let Xiaobai win." Yiting Xian looked at the eldest princess and didn't say anything. His lips curled into a bitter smile. Of course he wanted Chu Xiaobai to win, but did his thoughts have any use? "And Lo, don't make it hard for husband Yi. If we win, we have to win honorably, and if we lose, we have to lose cleanly. We definitely can't cheat and let East Qin see our West Chu as a joke." Mo Chuan's face sunk as he reprimanded the eldest princess. The eldest princess knew that she was being a bit whimsical. She gave a sad sigh and whispered in a low voice, "It would be good if Ning wasn't injured. Xiaobai admires her so much, she must have something special about her. I believe that if Ning was here, we would definitely win." Mo Chuan's heart filled with pain and he couldn't help looking into the distance. It was the direction of the eldest princess' palace. That's right, how could he not hope this? If she was here. But she was injured and had lost a large amount of blood, making her body weak. Seeing her pale as paper face and her unconscious appearance, his heart was filled with unbearable pain. He wished he could be injured for her and bleed for her. In this kind of situation, how could he let her participate in the competition? Therefore, he ordered the imperial physician to add some sleeping medicine to the medicine so that she could sleep for a few more hours. When she woke up, the competition would already be over. Humph. That bastard Xiao Yang, he was truly outrageous. Xiaobai was working for the country, but what about him? He didn't even show his face for such a big matter. When this princess sees him, I'll definitely give him a good whipping. The eldest princess found it hard to calm down and couldn't help directing her anger at Chu Xiaoyang. Mo Chuan finally noticed that Chu Xiaoyang really wasn't here. He had something on his mind the entire time, so he didn't notice it until the eldest princess said it. "Xiao Si, where is King Dingyuan?" He turned around. Xiao Si replied, "This servant doesn't know. King Dingyuan has not shown himself today, perhaps he was delayed by something and couldn't make it in time." Delayed by something? What matter could be bigger than the competition between East Qin and West Chu? Mo Chuan knit his brows and a bad premonition appeared in his heart. Chu Xiaoyang, he wouldn't be looking for her, right? His breathing stopped for a moment. Xiao Si, immediately go to the eldest princess' palace and go see her. He ordered Xiao Si in a low voice, not wanting Empress Dowager Zhou to hear him. Chapter 647. Xiao Si blinked and suddenly understood something. He involuntarily said, "It can't be, right? You talk too much. Quickly go." Mo Chuan stared at him. Yes, yes, this servant will immediately go. Xiao Si immediately ran down the stands, jumping onto a horse and galloping away. At this time, there was already a tall stone tablet in front of the stands. Yiting Xian was standing in front of the stone tablet, quickly writing. Na Mu Kyo and Chu Xiaobai were already blindfolded, standing 100 meters away on the track. 100 meters away, not to mention blindfolded, even if they didn't, they wouldn't be able to see the words on the stone tablet. Yiting Xian was writing a West-Chu ancient song poem, with a total of 126 words. Because it was an ancient poem, the words were very profound. He was using the ancient seal script, which was curvy and simple. Even a shallow person would not be able to understand what was written on the stone tablet, not to mention understanding the meaning of the poem. The reason why Yiting Xian chose this poem and the words he wrote, was because he had spent quite a bit of thought. He knew that the East Qin crown prince could understand the West Chu language, but he didn't think that the other side would have studied the West Chu ancient seal and ancient song poems. However, Chu Xiaobai was talented in both literature and martial arts. He had learned literature at the age of 3 and could recite the ancient song poems at the age of 9, so he had the upper hand in terms of literacy. As for the East Qin language, there were many ways to write it. Yiting Xian chose the simplest one, which was similar to the West Chu language. Each stroke was written very clearly, penetrating through the paper. He believed that even if Chu Xiaobai could not remember the entire text, he would still be able to remember 50 to 60% of it. This way, he would have a higher chance of winning. He deliberately slowed down his writing speed. In the depths of his heart, he was still hoping that Qin Ning would wake up and come to participate in this competition. He did not know why, but he had a deep impression of this girl that he had only seen a few times and had only spoken to a few times. Especially when he saw her bright and intelligent eyes, he believed that she had the ability to win. But when he finished writing and looked up at the gate, he still did not see Qin Ning's figure. He put down the brush in his hand and couldn't help letting out a long sigh. He had already done everything he could. Now the fate of West Chu was in Chu Xiaobai's hands. At this time, not only was he thinking about Qin Ning, even Chu Xiaobai who was riding far away was thinking about Qin Ning. But he was different from Yiting Xian. He hoped that he could represent her to fight and win this battle, then he would personally tell her the good news. His eyes were covered with a piece of white cloth and he couldn't see anything, but in front of his eyes, it was as if he could see her smiling face and her clear and bright eyes. It was as if she was smiling and saying to him, "Xiaobai, I believe you can win. You must win. Help me teach that bastard East Qin crown prince a lesson. Ning, don't worry. I will definitely win. I will take revenge for you. I will make him lose convincingly." He clenched his fists and said in a sonorous and forceful voice. "Chi." A cold snort sounded beside him and then Na Mu Kyo's deep and pleasant voice sounded. "You want to win against this prince? Dream on." Na Mu Kyo sat on his horse and laughed proudly. Chapter 648. Chu Xiaobai turned his head and looked in Na Mu Kyo's direction. Although he couldn't see, he forcefully opened his eyes and stared at the other side. "Your Highness, why don't you pretend that you don't understand my West Chu language anymore? Why don't you use your pug-like translator as a mouthpiece?" he said in a cold voice filled with sarcasm. "Humph, what does a trivial West Chu language count for? This prince's status is noble. It's not that I don't know how to speak, it's that I disdain speaking your West Chu language." When Na Mu Kyo's voice fell, Chu Xiaobai's body began to tremble with anger. The other side was simply too arrogant, being arrogant to the extreme. At this moment, he really wanted to charge forward and slap the other side in the face, teaching this mouth of his that couldn't spit out ivory. He heard Na Mu Kyo's voice ring out again. I'll tell you the truth, not only is this prince proficient in the 4 languages, I can also write in the 4 languages. Can you? Just based on you want to win against this prince. This prince will make you piss your pants in a bit. Na Mu Kyo arrogantly raised his chin. His eyes were covered with a black cloth, so he couldn't see Chu Xiaobai, but he disdained to look. Of all the men in the world, no one could enter his eyes, because no one was more outstanding than him. Chu Xiaobai used all his strength to suppress his anger. He coldly said, "It's too early to decide who will win and who will lose." He had already made his decision. He had to win this match no matter what. He could not allow this East Qin crown prince to be this arrogant. Na Mu Kyo said with a laugh, "Brat surnamed Chu, I don't care if you are Chu Xiaobai or Chu Xiaoyang. Remember this prince, the name Ning is not for you to call. After this match, she will be Tai Ben's woman. I'm afraid you don't know this, but if your West Chu loses, not only will you lose the annual tribute, you will also lose the most beloved woman of you and the emperor." Ha, 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 ha. Hearing this, Chu Xiaobai's face turned livid and his handsome face became twisted with anger. "You're speaking nonsense. Whether this prince is speaking nonsense or not, you will naturally know after the competition. This prince is too lazy to talk to you right now, you will be defeated by me sooner or later, humph." Na Mu Kyo turned his horse around and left Chu Xiaobai's side. Chu Xiaobai's heart suddenly turned hot and cold, going up and down, but he could not calm down at all. He desperately told himself to calm down, because his opponent was deliberately disturbing his state of mind, making him feel uncertain. In this way, when the match started, he would not be able to concentrate, and he would definitely lose. But hearing Na Mu Kyo's confident tone, how could he calm down? If he lost, would she lose as well? No, definitely not. Although he was comforting himself, his back was already drenched in cold sweat, and his forehead was dripping with sweat. When he thought about how the outcome of this battle was related to her safety, his heart felt like it was being tormented in a pan of oil. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, King Jing'an, are you two prepared? If the 2 of you are ready, the competition will officially begin." While Chu Xiaobai was suffering, a eunuch's sharp voice suddenly rang out. Na Mu Kyo nodded. Chu Xiaobai gritted his teeth and suddenly said, "Wait a minute." The eunuch was stunned as he asked, "How long does King Jing'an need to wait?" Chapter 649. The eunuch nodded and jumped onto his horse, rushing to the stands to report to Mo Chuan and Empress Dowager Zhou. Mo Chuan and the people in the stands had been paying attention to Chu Xiaobai's situation the entire time. Although they couldn't see it clearly because they were far away, they could see that Chu Xiaobai and the East Qin Crown Prince had exchanged a few words. Then Chu Xiaobai's expression changed and his body slightly trembled on the horse. Did something happen? What did the East Qin Crown Prince say to Chu Xiaobai? Everyone's hearts were filled with doubt. Mo Chuan was not assured, so he sent a eunuch over. After hearing the eunuch's report, everyone's hearts became even heavier. The match was about to begin, but King Jing'an's heart could not calm down. They did not even need to fight and they were already going to lose. Mo Chuan knit his brows. He could almost guess the reason for this. In this world, there was only one thing that could make Chu Xiaobai feel unsettled. It was a person. Ning-er. At this moment, are you still all right? His eyes looked into the distance outside the field as his heart skipped a beat. Xiaoru, let's go. Chen Ning turned her head from the bronze mirror and revealed a sweet smile to Xiaoru. Suddenly, the smile on her face froze. Her eyes opened wide as she stared at the person who had suddenly appeared in the room. That person's hand was grabbing Xiaoru's neck. Xiao Ru's little face turned purple and she couldn't say a word from being choked. He stood tall and wore a luxurious purple robe with a jade belt around his waist. His face was flawless like beautiful jade, his body tall and slender, and his eyes were jet black and deep, faintly flickering with light. He looked at her without blinking, and his eyes were filled with warm longing and tenderness. That was Chu Xiaoyang. She never would have dreamed that she would see Chu Xiaoyang at this moment. Ning, you're so beautiful. His beautiful black eyes gently looked at her and he revealed a faint smile at her. His expression was gentle and his voice was also gentle. He was like a warm spring breeze that blew into the room, but Chen Ning suddenly felt a chill down her spine. Seeing him, her mind couldn't help thinking back to the scene in the horse carriage. Like a wild beast, he pressed her against the car and tore her clothes apart. His calloused fingertips slowly wandered over her skin, caressing it, Zhui Feng. She immediately gave a cold shudder and shouted out. But no one responded. Zhui Feng's figure did not even appear. Are you looking for Zhui Feng? There's no need to look for him. He's lying on the roof like a salted fish, sunbathing. Chu Xiaoyang revealed a smile. He pointed at Xiao Ru's acupuncture point and threw her to the ground. Chen Ning wanted to help Xiao Ru. Chen Ning wanted to help her, but Chu Xiaoyang grabbed her wrist. Ning, I haven't seen you in a few days, but you're still as beautiful as before. No, you're even more beautiful than before. Chu Xiaoyang looked at her in a daze, not willing to look away from her face. Her face was as red as a peach blossom in March. He dreamed of her almost every night. He had missed her for 8 whole years. Chu Xiaoyang, how did you come in? This is the eldest princess palace, not your King Ding Yuan palace. Let me go. She stared at him with eyes filled with hatred. She forcefully pulled back her wrist, but the pain made her suck in a cold breath. What happened to your hand? Are you injured? Who hurt you? Tell me. Chapter 650. What happens to me has nothing to do with you. She said in a cold voice. You are my princess, whoever hurts you is equivalent to hurting me. Tell me, who is it? I want to cut off their head. Chu Xiaoyang's handsome face turned dark and his eyes flashed with a trace of hostility. Chu Xiaoyang, I said it has nothing to do with you. Let me go. Her eyes were filled with caution as she looked at him. Ning, why are you afraid of me? I won't hurt you, you are the woman I love the most in my life. My heart will ache even if you lose a single hair, so how could I harm you? Why can't you be like before and gently smile at me? Chu Xiaoyang revealed a trace of sadness on his face. His heart had always ached for her, but she had never seen his heart. Seeing her evasive and disgusted eyes, he would rather it be like before. Although she hated him back then, she would still smile at him. But now, he had never seen her smile again. Just now, when she turned around and smiled sweetly, it was like the sunlight that broke through the dark clouds, instantly illuminating his gloomy heart. Although it wasn't to him, he was still filled with joy. Chu Xiaoyang, what do you want to do here? Chen Ning bit her lips. She knew that she couldn't rely on anyone right now, the only one she could rely on was herself. It was almost time for the East Qin and West Chu competition. Mo Chuan, Chu Xiaobai, and the eldest princess should be in the eastern field at this time. No one would have thought that Chu Xiaoyang would appear here and no one would come to save her. Therefore, she quickly calmed down and told herself to calm down. If she was facing a beast that wanted to eat people, then she must not anger him and arouse his bestial nature. I want to bring you to see someone. Chu Xiaoyang saw that she was no longer resisting him and his heart filled with joy. What person? You'll know when you see him. This is a very important person, you don't know how much effort I spent to find this person. No, Chu Xiaoyang, I have something important to do right now. After I'm done, I'll go with you to see this person, alright? Let me leave first. Chen Ning calmly looked at him, but her heart was filled with anxiety. If she delayed any longer, it would be past noon and she wouldn't be able to make it. There is nothing more important than seeing this person. Ning, you're injured, so I'll carry you. He raised his arms and lifted her up. I'm not going. Chu Xiaoyang, put me down. She struggled to break free from his embrace. With a bang sound, something fell from her arms to the ground. What is this? An imperial edict. Chu Xiaoyang felt this was strange. With a flick of his foot, the yellow silk fell into his hands. He shook his hand and opened it. When he saw the contents of the imperial edict, he couldn't help but be startled. Then he understood. The lines on his chin tightened, and the veins on his forehead bulged, throbbing. Tell me, what is the meaning? He raised the imperial edict and stared at her without blinking. His eyes were burning with the flames of anger. Chen Ning turned her head, not looking at him and not saying a word. Her heart. He knew. He was this smart. As long as he saw the contents of the imperial edict, he could guess what she wanted to do. What should she do? He would definitely stop her. He would definitely not let her leave. Chapter 651. In the next moment, she heard Chu Xiaoyang's voice sound in her ears. I understand everything now. So the expert Xiao Bai was talking about was you. He asked the emperor for this imperial edict because of you, didn't he? You said you had something important to do and that you wanted to compete with the East Qin crown prince, right? You wanted to win this competition and then take out the imperial edict, asking the emperor to separate from this king, right? Chu Xiaoyang's questions became louder and angrier. Every time he asked, is it true, his eyes turned redder. Chen Ning knew that as long as she replied, yes, she would anger him even more and he would do something she could not predict. She told herself that she could not anger him at this time. Of course not. She quickly shook her head to deny it. Not? If not, then what are you keeping the imperial edict for? Say it, say it. Chu Xiaoyang said in a sharp voice. His arms tightened around her, tightly holding her in his embrace. He was on the verge of collapse just now, and if she had said yes, he did not know what he would have done. Hearing her say no, his heart relaxed. Although he knew that she was not telling the truth, even if it was a lie, he was still willing to listen. Chen Ning bit her lips. She could have casually made up a lie to trick him, but seeing the way he was looking at her, she suddenly couldn't say it out loud. No matter how wrong he was, he loved her. That was not a lie. His eyes filled with despair made it impossible for her to lie to him. Ning, say it. Even if you lie to me, as long as you say it, I'm willing to believe you. However, don't say anything that will make me sad, otherwise. He forcefully gritted his teeth, letting out a sharp creaking sound, causing her heart to involuntarily tremble. The heart in her chest began to ache again and her breathing became difficult. She began to forcefully take in a breath. She did not know why, but as long as she saw his deep eyes, her chest would fill with pain that made it hard for her to breathe. Ning, what's wrong? Don't be afraid, I'm just scaring you. He found that her face was becoming paler and his heart was filled with panic. He placed her on the bed and knelt down in front of it, looking at her in worry. Chen Ning closed her eyes and calmed her breathing. As long as she did not look at him, her heart would not feel that bad. Chu Xiaoyang, do you know what time it is right now? She said with a weak voice. It's almost noon. He turned to look at the sky outside and then immediately turned back to look at her. Her eyes were closed. Her eyelashes were long and thick, covering her beautiful eyes. Her eyebrows were still the same as in his memories. Her face, her lips. He had seen them countless times in his dreams, but only this time, she was so close that he could touch her. His slender and fair fingers slowly caressed her face. When his fingertips touched her soft skin, his heart actually trembled violently. His fingers touched her cheeks. When his fingertips touched that soft skin, his heart trembled. Her skin was warm, soft, making him unable to let go. Chu Xiaoyang's chest suddenly lit up. It burned fiercely and his eyes turned red from the heat. Chapter 652. His fingers grasped her neckline, and his red eyes stared at her lips. He wanted to tear off her clothes, he wanted to forcefully kiss her, he wanted to touch every inch of her body, he wanted to violently take her, he wanted to hear her tender cries under his body. He wanted to. Chu Xiaoyang. She suddenly opened her eyes. Her dark and clear eyes were like a lake under the starry sky, calm and serene. It instantly extinguished the flames in his chest. His Adam's apple moved a bit and the hot eyes looking at her became gentle. She would be his sooner or later, he was not in a rush. He had already waited for her for this long, why would he care about waiting a bit longer? If he really did that, he would only have her body, and he would never have her heart for the rest of his life. Do you know what day it is today? She asked. I know. Of course he knew. It was because he knew that everyone would be at the eastern field that he chose this time to see her. There was no one stopping him and no one paying attention to him. Actually, he had come to see her every day, but he had been chased away by the eldest princess like a fly. Then do you know that today's competition is very important? She asked again. He was silent for a bit. I know. Then do you know that the person competing with the East Qin envoy is me? She continued to ask. He stared at her. He didn't know before, but after seeing the imperial edict, he finally knew. Do you know that if I don't get to the eastern field after noon, I will lose this competition? Do you know the consequences of losing this competition? Of course he knew. But for this competition, it doesn't have to be you. Xiao Bai has a photographic memory, so he has a higher chance of winning than you. Ning, you are just an unmarried girl, you are this king's princess. You do not need to worry about the rise and fall of the country, you just need to peacefully stay by this king's side. Even if the sky falls, this king will hold it up for you. He grabbed her hand and used a lot of force. The rise and fall of the country is everyone's responsibility. Chu Xiaoyang, as King Dingyuan, do you not care about the fate of the country and the safety of the citizens at all? She stared at him word for word as she spoke in a powerful voice. However, he sneered coldly, and his handsome face turned cold. This king only cares about you. Ning, don't use those high-sounding words. This king knows what you're planning with him. You're rushing to the competition because you want to use this opportunity to get rid of this king. You can't fool this king. Chen Ning nodded. She sat up and looked right at him. That's right, that's what I thought before. I want to leave you, I really want to. So I want to win this competition, but now I realize that if I lose, not only will I lose my freedom, I will also lose the peaceful and happy lives of the West Chu citizens. I have to win, I have to win. Chu Xiaoyang, I am not doing this to get rid of you, I am doing this for the West Chu citizens. He stared at her without turning. Her face was as white as paper, but now it turned red from excitement. Her eyes were filled with a never-before-seen glow. This was a kind of beauty he had never seen before. For a moment, he was completely stunned. Should he believe her? Should he believe her words? Chu Xiaoyang thought he understood her very well, but now he found that he understood her less and less. Chapter 653. Since your words are this pleasant to hear, do you dare swear that if I let you participate in the competition and you win, you will never leave this king? You will never ask the emperor for a separation. You will always stay by this king's side for a lifetime. He said word for word. Chen Ning closed her eyes and her face turned snow white once again. She knew that as long as she agreed, she would never be able to escape the shackles of this man in front of her. The happiness that she and Imo Chuan were about to obtain would turn into bubbles. She had just tasted the sweetness of love and was about to drink the bitter wine of separation. But every word she said came from the bottom of her heart. She did not lie to him. Taking a deep breath, she slowly opened her eyes. On her long eyelashes, there was a crystal-clear teardrop. Her dark and moist eyes were clear and bright as she stared at him without blinking. His heart trembled because of her eyes and he held his breath. Give me the imperial edict. She pointed at the yellow cloth he had thrown on the ground. He did not say a word as he picked up the yellow cloth and placed it in her hands. Match. He took out a match from his chest and gave it to her before continuing to stare at her. She shook the match and then picked up the imperial edict. She placed it on the flame and lit it without any hesitation. In the blink of an eye, the yellow paper turned into butterflies. With a single blow of the wind, it turned to ashes. Now, you should believe me, right? She did not look at him. Her eyes followed the fluttering butterflies and the tears in her eyes fell. This was the imperial edict that Chu Xiaobai had personally asked for her. This was the key to her freedom. Now, she had personally burned it and everything had returned to the beginning. Perhaps this was her fate. She would be tightly bound to Chu Xiaoyang for the rest of her life. She had tried, struggled, but in the end, she could not escape the teasing of fate. Chu Xiaoyang stared at her and his eyes filled with a wild joy of disbelief. Ning, I believe you. I believe you. He reached out his arms and tightly held her in his embrace. At this moment, he was filled with a pleasant surprise of regaining what he had lost. He stroked her long black hair and stroked her thin shoulders. His hand slid down her back and landed on her soft waist. Holding it in his hand, it was so thin that if he used a bit of force, it would break. She is mine. Every inch of her body belongs to me now. There was a voice in his chest that was filled with joy. He had only thought it for himself, but he never thought that he would actually shout it out. Then he heard her cold and distant voice ring out. Chu Xiaoyang, what do you want? There is still time in the future. Can you let me go now? If you lose this competition, you will be the greatest sinner of West Chu. I think you don't want to see this result, right? His whole body trembled. Her words immediately woke him up from the wave of ecstasy. All right, I'll immediately send you to the East Field, immediately. He released his arms around her and his handsome face was filled with joy. He pulled her up from the bed and carefully helped her fix her wrinkled clothes. Then he lifted her chin and looked into her misty eyes. Let me kiss you and we'll leave. He whispered as he lowered his head to her. Chapter 654. Don't waste any more time. She moved her head to the side and avoided his kiss. He was stunned. He looked down at her soft and beautiful face and his chest filled with emotions. Then he revealed a smile. That's right, he shouldn't force her right now. They still had a long time together, so why was he in such a rush? Then promise me that once the competition is over, you'll come back to the palace with me, all right? She did not look up and just gave a soft sound. But this sound was enough to make his heart burst with joy. He looked up and broke out in laughter. His heart was filled with happiness, feeling like he had never been this happy in his life before. She felt like her heart was being torn in half. She could only tightly bite her lips, making her mouth taste sweet, but she could not stop the heart-tearing pain. "Let's go." He reached out to pick her up and jumped over the back wall. With a loud neigh, a maroon steed galloped over like a raging inferno. That large horse's head went into Chin Ning's chest. It touched her face and affectionately rubbed against it. It even stuck out its wet tongue and licked her face. Her face was already covered in tears, but it was completely licked by the date red horse's tongue. The date red horse seemed to feel her sadness. After licking her face, it went to lick her hand. Chen Ning reached out and tightly hugged the date red horse's neck. One person and one horse hugged each other, making Chu Xiaoyang filled with envy. He suddenly felt a strong sense of jealousy towards that horse. This damn beast, he had not even kissed her face yet and this beast had already done it. Moreover, it did not stop kissing. Also, she was being so affectionate with the horse and hugging it this tightly. She had never hugged him like this before. Ning, if you keep being so affectionate with it, don't blame me if you miss the time. The more he watched, the more flames appeared in his eyes. Finally he could not endure it any longer and pulled the date red horse away. Then he put her on the horse's back and he also jumped onto the horse, holding her in his embrace. The date red horse was clearly not willing to let him ride it as it let out a cry of protest. "Go!" Chu Xiaoyang's legs squeezed and the horse's abdomen was filled with pain. The horse knew that it had met a hard opponent, so it could only move its hooves and gallop forward. Her hair fluttered in the wind, tickling his face as it brushed past his face. Carrying her sweet scent, it faintly reached the bottom of his heart. He controlled the reins with one hand and wrapped his other hand around her slender waist, pressing her back against his chest. He couldn't see her expression, but he could feel that she was resisting and straightening her back, wanting to leave his embrace. "Ning, don't leave me. Let me hug you." He rubbed his chin against her head and said in a soft voice. "Chu Xiaoyang, can you make the horse run faster?" Her eyes were glued to the road in front of her and her heart had already flown out. "I hope it runs as slow as possible. It's best if it never stops. That way, I can always hug you. You don't know how long I've been thinking about this moment. Today, I finally got my wish." "Ning, Ning say, Ning, ti, Ning, ti, Ning." She did not speak and there was no expression on her face at all. No matter how sweet his words of love were, they could not move her heart. Because she had never liked him before. Chapter 655. What was going on? She knit her brows and raised her hand to touch her chest. She felt that her heartbeat was very irregular. This was not the first time she had this kind of feeling. Every time Chu Xiaoyang said those words of love to her, her heart would beat out of control and she would even faint. "Ning, once the competition is over, I'll take you away. I want to hug you like now and kiss you." She knit her brows and did not say anything. "We haven't slept together since we got married. Tonight will be our wedding night and I will make you my woman." She still didn't say anything, trying her best to treat his words as air. "I hope that you can give birth to a child for me as soon as possible. Whether it's a boy or a girl, I will like it very, very much. This king hopes that the child will be as beautiful as you." The date red horse galloped forward and the sound of the wind rang in their ears, but Chu Xiaoyang's voice did not stop. His eyes sparkled as he looked around. All the sceneries around him were too beautiful to take in. "Ning, what do you think? Do you like a boy or a girl?" He suddenly lowered his head and asked her in his embrace. I like. Shut your mouth. She finally couldn't take it anymore and coldly said this. He was stunned and then he gave a loud laugh. It was very unbridled and it attracted the attention of the passers-by. Chu Xiaoyang did not say anything, but his eyes were filled with a smile. He was like a young man that had fallen in love, his chest was filled with joy and happiness. While Chu Xiaoyang's mind was intoxicated, the tense atmosphere on the eastern field was about to explode. On the other side of the track, Chu Xiaobai and Na Mu Qiu were facing each other. Na Mu Qiu's lips curled into a smile as he revealed a sarcastic smile. Your Highness King Jing'an, half a cup of tea's time has passed. Your heart. Is it calm? Chu Xiaobai forcefully placed his hand on his chest. He did not know why, but his heart was becoming more and more restless. It was beating faster and faster, as if something bad was about to happen. But the situation was already like an arrow on a bow, it had to be released. He gritted his teeth and said in a cold voice, All right, we can begin. All right, since it's like this servant will count to 3. Then I ask the Crown Prince and King Jing'an to take off their blindfolds and the competition will begin. As soon as the eunuch finished speaking, the translator immediately translated his words again. Na Mu Qiu nodded. At this time, the eunuch raised the small red flag in his hand, indicating to the people in the stands that the match was about. The people on both sides of the grandstand all stood up and rushed to the edge of the grandstand. Hundreds of pairs of eyes stared unblinkingly at the black and white figures on the track in the distance. Especially the West Chu ministers, everyone's hearts were beating fast and they even stopped breathing. Their palms were covered in cold sweat for Chu Xiaobai. Empress Dowager Zhou's hand holding Eugene couldn't help trembling. Mo Chuan's deep eyes couldn't help looking in the direction of the school field gates. He felt his heart skip a beat, as if he could hear the sounds of horse hooves that were more urgent than the last. Was her. She. On. It. His eyes fell onto the white-clothed Chu Xiaobai 100 meters away. West Chu. Yukan's Chu. Chapter 656. Chu Xiaobai and Na Mu Qiu's right hands grabbed their blindfolds at the same time, waiting for the eunuch to count to 3. 2. The eunuch raised the red flag in his hand high up. The atmosphere on the field was already tense to the extreme. Wait a minute. Just as the eunuch was about to say 3, a clear and melodious shout suddenly came from the direction of the gate of the drill ground. As the voice faded away, a maroon steed galloped into the drill ground as if its feet weren't touching the ground, galloping over on the long track. There were 2 people sitting on the back of the horse, a man and a woman. The man had a purple robe, a handsome face, and an extraordinary aura, but everyone's eyes were focused on the young girl in his arms. The noon sun shined down from above, falling onto the girl's hair and clothes, as well as her slightly raised face. Her hair was like clouds, her face was like a painting, and her crystal black eyes sparkled with light. Seeing her, Mo Chuan's chest filled with hot blood and he couldn't help revealing a faint smile. But when his eyes fell onto the man behind her, the smile on his face instantly froze. His fingers tightly clenched into fists. That was Chu Xiaoyang. It's King Ding Yuan. There's also his princess. Why are they here? The ministers began to whisper to each other, discussing with each other. They couldn't help revealing looks of disdain as they looked at Chu Xiaoyang. As the previous emperor's son, he actually came late to the competition between East Qin and West Chu, bringing his princess with him. Could it be that he couldn't leave a woman for even a second? Which of the princes, dukes, and ministers present were like him, bringing their wives here? This was truly throwing West Chu's face. Chu Xiaoyang quickly brought Qin Ning, heading straight for the West Chu stands. When they reached the stands, he suddenly pulled on the horse's reins. The date-red horse's forehooves were like iron, not moving at all. This skill was exactly the same as the riding skill that Na Mu Kyo had just shown. The ministers couldn't help cheering for his skill. Even the East Chin stands on the other side were filled with cheers. Emperor, the competition hasn't officially begun, right? This minister wants to recommend someone to the emperor to replace Xiao Bai in the competition with the East Chin crown prince. This person's ability is above Xiao Bai's, so with her on the stage, our West Chu will win without a doubt. Chu Xiaoyang looked up from the horse's back and looked into Mo Chuan's eyes. His voice was clear and his words were clear. Each word was powerful, making the West Chu minister's blood boil. Ah! There's someone stronger than King Jing'an? I don't believe it, it's impossible. Since King Ding Yuan dares to say this, he must have full confidence. Let's wait and see. Among the several dozen people in the stands, only Mo Chuan Qin King Jing and Chu stood up and said, King Mu Chuan said. Of the several dozen people in the stands, only Mo Chuan knew who Chu Xiaoyang was recommending. Other than her, who else could it be? Only he didn't know why she would appear with Chu Xiaoyang. Why did she keep her head down and not look up? Why did she not even look at him? King Ding Yuan, who are you recommending? Although he knew this in his heart, Mo Chuan still had to put on a show in front of the ministers. His eyes fell onto Qin Ning without blinking. Chapter 657. As soon as Chu Xiaoyang's voice fell, there was the sound of a cold breath being sucked in from the stands. The ministers looked at each other in blank dismay and they all revealed looks of disbelief. Although they did not say a single word, it was clear they did not believe him. Almost everyone was thinking, could this King Ding Yuan have lost his mind because of his princess? He was actually letting a young girl that was not even 20 compete with the East Chin crown prince who was known as the smartest person in the world. And he was insisting that she would win. Wasn't this the biggest joke in the world? Alright, this one allows it. Mo Chuan agreed without any hesitation at all. What? The emperor actually allowed it. The eyes of the ministers almost popped out. They felt that today's matter was becoming more and more unbelievable. Not only had King Ding Yuan gone crazy, even the wise and far-sighted emperor had gone crazy. Empress Dowager, you see this? Isn't this a bit inappropriate? Some ministers couldn't help complaining to Empress Dowager Zhou. Although the emperor was Mo Chuan's, the foundation was the Chu family's. They couldn't just let him make the decision and gamble the lives of the hundreds of thousands of citizens. Emperor! Come over here for this widow. Empress Dowager Zhou had already accumulated a stomach full of anger, but she couldn't vent it on Mo Chuan in front of the ministers. This was because she had already noticed that ever since Qin Ning entered the arena, her son's eyes had never left that girl's face. Being obsessed to this point, how could he look like the ruler of a country at all? What was even more ridiculous was that he actually wanted that girl to replace Xiao Bai in the competition. Wasn't this the biggest joke in the world? Chu Xiaobai had always been smart since he was young and had a photographic memory. This was something that everyone in West Chu knew. Now he wanted to change it to a weak girl. Not to mention that this girl was a famous idiot young miss in the capital city. Mother, your son believes in King Ding Yuan and believes in his princess. I ask Mother to not say anything else. Your son has already made his decision. Mo Chuan already knew what Empress Dowager Zhou wanted to say, but he didn't want to hear a single word. After he finished, he directly said to Chu Xiaoyang, King Ding Yuan, this one agrees to your request. Ding Yuan princess, you can go over there and prepare for the competition. He firmly said with a determined expression, not allowing anyone to argue at all. Emperor, this minister's princess is not well and cannot ride a horse by herself. This minister wants to send her over. Chu Xiaoyang's left hand held the reins while his right hand forcefully held Qin Ning's waist, tightly hugging her. His domineering and possessive posture made Imo Chuan's eyes fill with flames. He did not look at all, but his hands were tightly clenched in Imo Chuan's sleeves. His voice was flat, but his hands were clenched tightly in his sleeves, causing his sleeves to tremble slightly. Why did she not look at all as she looked at him? Why was she riding with Chu Xiaoyang? Of king, she said. Of mo as. Why, of king as he as, Chen could, Ning said. Chen Ning looked. As of Chen of Shikun not look. Chen was. Chen Ning kept her head down. She did not look up at Imo Chuan because she did not dare. She was afraid that once she saw it, she would be reluctant to part with it. Chapter 658. She gave a soft sound. Imo Chuan's heart suddenly sank. Something must have happened, it must have. Her expression and tone had completely changed, she was no longer the her he was familiar with. Since it's like this, King Ding Yuan, you can send the princess over. Imo Chuan softly said. His face was calm and no one knew that his heart had already been split in half. He stood high up in the stands and watched as Chu Xiaoyang hugged her waist, bringing her away step by step. Her figure became smaller and smaller, but it was still as clear as before in his eyes. On the other side of the track, Na Mu Qiu and Chu Xiaobai already knew what had happened. They pulled down the bandages covering their eyes and looked at her approaching figure without blinking. Na Mu Qiu's eyes looked over Chu Xiaoyang's face and he gave a disdainful snort. These West Chu men all looked like women, only they were pretty. But looking at his weak body, he wouldn't be able to take a single punch from him. He was confident that with a single move, he would be able to knock down her husband. Ah Ning, you're finally here. This prince has always believed that only you are my match. This brat that came out of nowhere, he can't do it. Na Mu Qiu revealed a bright smile at Qin Ning, revealing his snow-white teeth that sparkled under the sunlight. Qin Ning only looked at him and did not say a word. She raised her eyes and looked at Chu Xiaobai. Xiaobai, this is the agreement between me and him, so I have to complete it. You. Thank you. She simply said. She did not say the following words. Thank you, you wholeheartedly helped me, but I still failed to live up to the imperial edict you worked so hard to obtain for me. Ning, I believe you can win. Chu Xiaobai's eyes sparkled and his voice was filled with confidence in her. He turned his horse around and moved to the side. Chu Xiaoyang coldly said, Xiaobai, you should call her your third sister-in-law. Is the word Ning, something you should call her? He was filled with jealousy, especially when he heard her say, Xiaobai. His hand on her waist couldn't help tightening. Between her and Xiaobai, when did they become this familiar? Why didn't he know anything? All right, third sister-in-law. Chu Xiaobai shouted out in a bitter voice. He looked up at Chu Xiaoyang, third brother, third sister-in-law knows how to ride a horse, so third brother doesn't need to keep holding third sister-in-law, right? Could it be that third brother is going to keep holding her while competing with the crown prince? She's this king's princess, so what if this king wants to hold her? It's not up for others to say anything. Chu Xiaoyang's words made Chu Xiaobai's face turn red. You, let her go. Na Mu Qiu suddenly pointed at Chu Xiaoyang and said in a low voice. His voice was low, like the calm before the storm, but it was faintly mixed with the aura of a storm. Chu Xiaoyang was a bit stunned. He raised his chin and looked at Na Mu Qiu, revealing a cold smile. Your Highness. Shao. This prince doesn't like you touching her. If you don't get off the horse, this prince will blow your head off with a single punch. Namu Kyo raised his right hand and slowly clenched it into a fist. Cracking sounds came from his joints and a fierce glow appeared in his eyes. Chu Xiaoyang's anger surged and his brows were lowered. He did not show any weakness as he looked at Namu Kyo's fierce eyes. His voice was even colder than Namu Kyo's. Chapter 659. Swords were drawn between the two of them. It was like a pile of gunpowder, ready to explode at any moment. The eunuch and translator were so scared that their faces turned white and their bodies began to tremble. They wanted to come forward to stop them, but they didn't have the courage to do so. Chu Xiaoyang, get off your horse. I have already arranged this competition with Prince Namu. I want to have a fair competition with him. Chen Ning suddenly looked up and her clear and melodious voice broke the tense atmosphere between the two men. Ning, you're injured, you can't ride a horse by yourself. Chu Xiaoyang was not willing to let go. I know my own body, there's no need for your highness to worry about it. She looked at him with a faint gaze, you being behind me will only make my mind uneasy. Do you want me to lose? I will make your mind uneasy. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes lit up and there was a strange glow in them. Could it be that there was finally a place for him in her heart? He dismounted without any hesitation and patted the date red horse's head. With a smile, he said, you have to be obedient, you're not allowed to throw my Ning. The date red horse let out a breath of air. Chen Ning did not care about Chu Xiaoyang. She raised her eyes and looked at Namu Kyo. Under the sunlight, Namu Kyo's sharp features looked even more domineering. His eyes were filled with energy and he was filled with vigor. It was clear that he was determined to win this competition. Prince Namu, I'm ready. What about you? Namu Kyo revealed a smile at her. Ah Ning, after this competition, you have to call me Ah Kyo. Don't forget our agreement. As long as you win against me, everything will naturally go as you wish. Her expression did not change. All right. Then let's begin. Namu Kyo was already impatient to begin. Chu Xiaoyang's heart filled with doubt. Ning, what agreement do you have with him? You know him. You've seen him before. How do you know him? Ning, you. Before he could finish, Namu Kyo rolled his eyes at him. What does the agreement between me and her have to do with you? Get out of the way for this prince. He raised his horse whip and threw it at Chu Xiaoyang's face. When he saw Chu Xiaoyang's handsome face, he was filled with anger. Chu Xiaoyang's figure flashed and he dodged the whip. In a deep voice, he said, Your Highness, do you want to make a move? He of the spirit snake sword appeared from his waist of his sword. Of his sword was like a stream of water as it reflected the sunlight. The eunuch and the translator cried out inwardly. The translator hurriedly winked at the eunuch who delivered the order. The eunuch understood and hurriedly raised the red flag in his hand and shouted, 1, 3, 3. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved the red flag in his hand. In an instant, Chen Ning's date red horse charged forward as soon as the red flag fell. Of the horses. Of them. Of. 2 horses, one black and one red, galloped towards the stone monument below the grandstand. All of the people on both sides of the stand stood up and stared at the 2 people on horseback. In terms of horsemanship, Namu Kyo was several times better than Chen Ning, so it was easy for him to surpass her. But this time they were not competing in horsemanship, rather they were competing in reading steals. Chapter 660. So he controlled the horse's speed the entire time, maintaining the same speed as her. The black horse he was riding was right next to her red horse. He slightly turned his head, admiring the appearance of her riding on the horse's back. Her long hair was lifted by the wind and strands of it danced in the air. There were even a few strands of hair that were sent to his face by the wind, giving him an itchy feeling that made his heart itch. "Ah, Ning, your riding skills aren't that great, but your horse is truly a fine horse. It's not much different from my black cloud snow cover. I never thought that your West Chu would have this kind of good horse. Where did you get it from?" He was a person who knew horses and could tell that her date red horse was not ordinary with a single glance. He couldn't help praising it. Chen Ning looked straight ahead, turning a deaf ear to his words. Na Mu Kyo was not angry, he liked her serious personality, it was just like him. Their horses were both fine horses, and in the time it took for them to say a single sentence, they had already traveled 50 meters. They were getting closer and closer to the stone tablet, and the words on the stone tablet were already reflected in their eyes. Na Mu Kyo put away his smile. He and Chen Ning were together as their eyes were glued to the words on the stone tablet. While they were riding, they were secretly reciting it in their hearts. There were clearly several hundred people here, but it was completely silent at this moment. There was only the sound of the two horses' hooves hitting the ground. Ta, 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 one sound after another, it was like a hammer hitting everyone's hearts. The hearts of everyone in the West Chu stands were in their throats. The ministers were all nervous and depressed, they didn't have any hope of winning at all. Now, they just hoped that they wouldn't lose too badly. Some of the ministers had even begun to calculate where they would get the extra tribute if they lost the competition. This was double the amount of silver they were supposed to get. Ning Her, you have to win. You have to win. The eldest princess clenched her fists as she stood on the edge of the stands. She was cheering for Chen Ning in her heart, unknowingly saying this out loud. Empress Dowager Zhou couldn't help glaring at her, but the eldest princess didn't notice it at all. Her eyes simply couldn't move away from Chen Ning's face, and she was so nervous that she even forgot to breathe. Although Mo Chuan didn't say a single word and his handsome face didn't reveal a single strange expression, only a careful person would notice that his sleeves were slightly trembling and the dragon robe on his back was slowly soaked in water. The two horses ran at a very fast speed. In just a few breaths, everyone could see two figures flash by. The two horses had already reached the stands and passed the stone tablet before stopping at the same time. According to the rules, after running past the stone tablet, the two of them were not allowed to look back at the contents of the stone tablet, so they both got off their horses. In front of the two of them were two rectangular writing desks. On the desks were brushes, ink, paper, and an inkstone. Someone had already ground a pool of thick ink in the inkstone. On the table were two pieces of white paper. But on Na Mu Kyo's table, what was prepared was not a brush, but a thick black charcoal stick. Yiting Xian stood in front of the table and revealed a faint smile to Chen Ning. Chapter 661. What did this mean? She knew that Yiting Xian would not make this gesture for no reason, but she did not have time to think about it. Her mind was filled with the words and pictures she had just seen. The West Chu ancient script that Yiting Xian had written, she could recognize less than 10 words. As for the East Qin language, she did not recognize a single word, completely relying on her memory. She slightly turned her head and looked at Na Mu Kyo, finding that he did not notice Yiting Xian's small gesture. Na Mu Kyo had a serious expression. His hands were on the table, but he was not in a rush to write. His eyes were slightly closed as he organized the words he had just seen on the stone tablet. Rather than saying it was words, it was more accurate to say it was pictures. Thinking of this, Na Mu Kyo felt that he had underestimated the intelligence of the West Chu people. He never thought that he would be tricked by this weak-looking scholar. Na Mu Kyo was like everyone expected. Not only could he speak the West Chu language fluently, he could also write most of the West Chu language. But he was still an East Chin citizen, so this was the first time he had seen the West Chu ancient script. Each word was like a picture and he could only rely on his extraordinary memory to remember the contents of each picture. He could not remember a single stroke wrong. 126 words were 126 pictures. As long as he remembered one wrong, he could lose this competition. Chen Ning was the same as Na Mu Kyo. She closed her eyes and recalled the pictures she had just seen. The West Chu people in the stand saw the two of them sitting like monks and were filled with anxiety and worry. The East Chin envoys on the other side had completely different expressions. Their brows were dancing and their faces were filled with joy because they understood their crown prince's abilities too well. The crown prince had met countless experts in this competition, but he had never lost a single time. His current opponent was a young girl. She had a beautiful appearance and a slender figure that seemed like she would fall with the wind. What kind of skills could a girl like this have? It must be the West Chu country that wanted to use a honey trap on the crown prince. They thought that the crown prince would be charmed by this girl's beauty and deliberately lose this competition. But what kind of hero was the crown prince? How could he be charmed by a girl? After a while, Chen Ning and Na Mu Kyo opened their eyes at the same time. Everyone once again held their breaths as they watched the scene below without blinking. Na Mu Kyo picked up a piece of charcoal and began to write the words on the stone tablet on a piece of paper. Chen Ning looked at the brush on the table and slightly knit her brows, but she did not pick up the brush. The West Chu ministers had been watching her every move without blinking. Seeing her expression, their hearts suddenly sank as they thought, this idiot princess can't even say a single word, right? If it was like this, then the West Chu would lose a large amount of face. Although they knew that reading a stone tablet while riding on a horse and memorizing every word on it was an incredible matter, since the East Chin crown prince could do it, they believed that there were others who could do it. At least King Jing'an, Chu Xiaobai could do it. But the emperor just had to change people at the last minute and send this idiot princess to compete. Wasn't this making a fool of himself in front of everyone? Chapter 662. It didn't matter if she lost her own face, but she lost the entire country's face. She lost a year's worth of West Chu's tribute. She lost the peaceful lives of the common people. Everyone couldn't help complaining in their hearts. Why would the emperor make this absurd decision? Someone, go and prepare the same charcoal for the Ding Yuan princess as the crown prince. Mo Chuan looked over from the corner of his eyes and saw the dissatisfaction on the ministers' faces, but he was still calm and composed as he gave an order to the eunuch beside him. Out of everyone here, there was no one who understood Chen Ning better than him. Only he knew that she didn't know how to use a brush. She didn't know how to write with a brush, she only knew how to draw earthworms. Very quickly, the charcoal was placed in front of Chen Ning. She was a bit stunned as she bit her lower lip. Picking up the charcoal, her mind was filled with excitement. It's him, only he would think this carefully and only he would understand her like this. But she did not dare to raise her head to look at him. Although she knew that his eyes had never left her, she could not give him any response because she had already promised Chu Xiaoyang. She closed her eyes and forcefully removed all the distracting thoughts from her mind. She didn't want to think about it right now, she couldn't think about it. She had to win this competition, she couldn't lose. Yiting Xian looked at her without blinking. He was filled with confidence in her, but seeing her close her eyes again with a pale face and slightly trembling body, just like a white camellia swaying in the wind, his heart couldn't help jumping up. What was wrong with her? Did she understand his hint just now? Chen Ning finally opened her eyes and tightly gripped the charcoal. She began to write stroke by stroke on the white paper. Yiting Xian noticed that when she opened her eyes, he could see a faint flash of tears in her eyes. Her writing speed was very fast, almost not stopping at all, just like moving clouds and flowing water. She first wrote the ancient seal script of the West Chu country because these pictures were the most complicated. Based on the impression in her mind, she meticulously wrote down these pictures. When the West Chu people in the stand saw the ancient seal script on the paper, they all opened their mouths in shock and their eyes went wide. There were many people who began to rub their eyes, wondering if they were hallucinating. How was this possible? This was impossible. Almost all of them could read the ancient seal script. Seeing that Chen Ning's words weren't wrong, she was just a young girl who wasn't even 20 yet. Empress Dowager, this servant doesn't know the ancient seal script. Do you think the princess words are all correct? Su Jin supported Empress Dowager Zhou as she stood on the edge of the stands. She stretched her neck to look down, but found that she didn't know a single word. She was worried and couldn't help asking Empress Dowager Zhou. Empress Dowager Zhou's face was as cold as water, but there was a faint glow in her eyes. She couldn't help shaking. Empress's face. Empress's expression. Su's is Su ts wish. SSI's est Su's heart. Su Ning's face is estes. Mo Chuan's eyes sparkled as his eyes filled with joy and excitement. His eyes could not move away from Chen Ning's face at all. Chapter 663. Mo Chuan's heart was filled with excitement. He really wanted to go down and give her a hug. He was filled with pride for her with all his heart. No one in the audience looked at Na Mu Kyo's writing, almost everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Ning's face. They watched her pen move like dragons and snakes, gently waving her slender arms. Her movements were very elegant and her fingers were as white as jade. Compared to the black charcoal, the black and white were very distinct. It made her skin look like snow, giving off a luster. As long as they looked at her, it was a very pleasing painting. Even the people in the East Chin stands couldn't help looking at her, falling into a daze. Na Mu Kyo had started writing earlier than her. He did not have any distractions as he wrote. When he finished the last stroke, he exhaled and relaxed his tense mind. He had been very focused just now and was afraid that he would miss a single detail, not knowing what was happening next to him at all. At this time, his mind was relaxed and he revealed a satisfied smile. This was because he was 100% sure that he would win. This was because his writing was not bad at all. Even if her writing was not bad at all, according to the time, he would still win. He smiled as he put down the charcoal in his hand. There was a servant on the side bringing water for him to wash his hands. He washed his hands while turning to look at her beside him. He was like a hunter looking at his prey, filled with determination. Her eyes were focused, and her brush moved as if it was flying. It was as if she could not see or hear anything around her. Na Mu Kyo looked at her in appreciation for a while before his eyes slowly fell onto the white paper in front of her. Looking at it, his brows couldn't help jumping up. She was writing in their East Chin language. Although the writing was not beautiful, it was very neat. With a cursory glance, he could see that not a single word was wrong. Could it be that she also understood their East Chin language? Na Mu Kyo's eyes turned and he understood. She was the same as him, having a photographic memory. Moreover, she had completely understood the secret he had taught her and had a very good grasp of it. He was very shocked. He knew that she was very smart, but he never thought that her ability would not be inferior to his. Immediately, the light in Na Mu Kyo's eyes brightened. It was as if he had discovered a rare treasure. He parted his mouth and revealed his snow-white teeth, grinning from ear to ear. This trip to West Chu, it really was not a wasted trip for him. He didn't want anything, he just wanted her. Chen Ning finally finished writing the last word. She put down the charcoal in her hand and turned to look at Na Mu Kuo, finding that he had finished before her. This was already within her expectations. She calmly nodded at Na Mu Kuo. Na Mu Kuo also gave her a bright smile. "Ah Ning, do you still remember our agreement?" He gave an arrogant and proud smile. "Of course I remember," she said. "Very good, if you lose, you'll be this prince's person. Once the competition is over, you'll have to leave with this prince." "Ah Ning, you won't go back on your word, right?" He stared at her face and said. Chen Ning said. She washed the charcoal powder off her hands and combed the loose hair on her temples. She smiled faintly. With the two of them asking and answering, the West Chu people in the stands could all hear it clearly. There was an uproar in the stands. Everyone had their faces filled with expressions as they looked at Qin. Chapter 664. He never would have thought that the agreement between Qin Ning and Na Mu Kuo would be like this. If he knew it would be like this, he would not have let her participate no matter what. Chu Xiaoyang's teeth began to creak from gritting them. Bastard! Damn! This damn East Qin crown prince. He was too rude and too arrogant. He actually dared to have ideas about his princess. Was he tired of living? King Ding Yuan, calm down, calm down. You can't be impulsive. Everything is decided by the emperor. The ministers broke out in a cold sweat from the cold killing intent he released. The ministers that were on good terms with him all tried to dissuade him. But Chu Xiaoyang turned a deaf ear to them. His eyes were blood red and his hand was placed on the soft sword hilt at his waist. He walked to the edge of the stands and was about to jump down. "Xiaoyang, stop." A red figure flashed by. Eldest Princess and Li's hand moved quickly and grabbed Chu Xiaoyang's shoulder. She coldly said, "What do you want to do?" "Royal aunt, don't stop me, I want to kill him. He actually wants to steal my Ning." Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth. The eldest princess lowered her voice and said in his ears, "If you kill him, you will destroy the peace between the two countries. You will cause the flames of war to rise again and the citizens will not be able to live in peace. The most important thing is that you will put your royal father to death." Although her voice was low, it was like a slap to the head. It instantly woke up Chu Xiaoyang, who was filled with killing intent. He stared with blood-red eyes and turned to the eldest princess. In a hoarse voice, he said, "But royal aunt, should I let him steal Ning? How is that possible?" The eldest princess said, "Even if you agree, the emperor will not agree. Not to mention that the agreement between the two of them is that Ning will only leave with the East Qin crown prince if she loses. Do you really believe that the East Qin crown prince will win?" "I am more optimistic about Ning." Chu Xiaoyang patted his head and shouted, Right, I was confused by that bastard crown prince. Ning will not lose, she definitely won't." He forcefully clenched his fists and looked down without blinking. "Respected Emperor, this prince and your country's princess have already finished writing. We ask the Emperor to make a fair decision." Under the stands, Na Mu Kuo's right hand was placed on his left chest. He slightly bowed to Mo Chuan in the stands. He spoke in the West Chu language this time, not letting the translator translate it. Mo Chuan knew that this was their East Qin country's most respectful etiquette. He gave a slight nod and under everyone's eyes, he walked down the stand step by step, arriving in front of the two of them. Although he was facing Na Mu Kuo, his eyes were always looking at her. She lowered her head, and he could only see the top of her black hair, her pretty white chin, and her long and dense eyelashes that were gently trembling. Chuan that she was also felt that he was her. Ning that was not only lost, but also lost. Shin, this sheet was not lost. Kuo Mo Chuan's face was as calm as water, but his heart was burning with flames. He could not move his eyes away from her face. Your Majesty, what this prince wants you to see is not the beauty of your country's princess. Why does your Majesty keep staring at the princess? Na Mu Kyo looked at Mo Chuan with a faint smile as he spoke without any hesitation. Chen Ning's body slightly trembled. She looked up and met Mo Chuan's eyes. Chapter 665. Mo Chuan took a step forward and couldn't help reaching out his right hand, wanting to hold her hand. Emperor, this is the inscription this minister's concubine has written. I asked the emperor to take a look. Chen Ning immediately looked away and looked down. She took a step back and picked up the paper she had written. Her knees slightly bent as she handed it over to him. Her action was perfect. It was as if he did not reach out to hold her hand, but rather to take the inscription she had written. Under the gaze of the several hundred pairs of eyes, there was actually no one who noticed this subtle difference. There were only a few people who knew, and Empress Dowager Zhou was one of them. Seeing Mo Chuan walk down the stage to her side, Empress Dowager Zhou's heart was raised high. She was afraid that her passionate son would act recklessly and do something that would disgrace the country and the royal family. When she saw her son holding his niece's wife's hand in front of all the ministers, Empress Dowager Zhou's face could no longer be described as ugly. But following that, Chen Ning's natural and unrestrained actions dissolved the awkwardness, letting her let out a sigh of relief. She secretly patted her chest and thought, it's good, it's very lucky. She couldn't help standing in the stands and giving a heavy cough to the people below. Mo Chuan grabbed the inscription she sent to him and slowly opened it. His eyes finally moved from her face to the inscription in his hands. Because her voice was like a pool of cool water, extinguishing the raging fire burning in his chest, allowing him to quickly calm down. Especially when he heard the Empress Dowager's warning call from the stands, he began to remember his identity and how important the occasion was. As the monarch of a country, he could not do anything inappropriate. Ting Xian, you are proficient in both the West Chu and East Qin languages, and this inscription was personally written by you, so you can be the judge. Let's see if the East Qin Crown Prince or the Ding Yuan Princess wins this competition. Mo Chuan gave Chen Ning's handwritten inscription to Yiting Xian. Yiting Xian bowed as he received it and placed it on the table. He also took Na Mu Kyo's inscription and placed it side by side, comparing it word for word. Na Mu Kyo was very confident as he stood there with his hands behind his back, looking very spirited. He only smiled at Chen Ning, smiling in an arrogant manner. Chen Ning slightly looked down, not looking at Na Mu Kyo or Mo Chuan. Her expression was very calm, as if she did not care about winning or losing. The West Chu people in the stands all stopped breathing. They all opened their eyes wide and their ears perked up, nervously waiting for Yiting Xian to announce the results. After a while, Yiting Xian put down the inscription in his hands and looked up. His eyes sparkled as he spoke. Reporting to your Majesty, after this commoner carefully analyzed, the princess consort should be the winner of this competition. Not only could he write the East Qin language, he could also speak the East Qin language fluently. After saying this, he repeated the words he just said in the East Qin language. There was a sudden uproar from the stands on both sides, as if a basin of cold water had been poured into a pot of boiling oil. Ting dong. The Ting Yuan. Mo, impossible. Chapter 666. Everyone stared at Yiting Xian with wide eyes. Their hearts were thinking, could husband Yi really be cheating and purposely favoring the Ding Yuan princess? Mo Chuan was also half believing in his heart. Although he believed in Chen Ning's ability, he knew that since Na Mu Kyo dared to propose this competition, he must have the confidence to win. Moreover, he was faster than Chen Ning by half a cup of tea's worth of time. Even if their words were not wrong, Na Mu Kyo should have won. Could it be that Na Mu Kyo wrote the wrong words? Ting Xian, are you sure about the result? Is it really the princess who won? Mo Chuan asked again. This commoner is sure, the princess did win. Yiting Xian confidently replied. When Yiting Xian's voice fell, he heard Na Mu Kyo's cold voice say, "Where did this bullshit referee come from? This prince's words are not wrong with your stone tablet, what makes you think this prince has lost? Even if her words are not wrong, according to the time, this prince has won." Yiting Xian seemed like he already expected Na Mu Kyo to say this. He said, "If your highness doesn't believe me, you can personally compare it and see if Ting Xian's judgment is fair or not. Someone come, hang these two words on the two sides of the stone tablet and let your highness personally compare them." Mo Chuan waved his hand and gave the order. "If your highness feels it is unfair, you can let your country's envoys judge it. Ting Xian, call our people to judge it as well." Mo Chuan then said. Although he didn't see anything profound, he believed that since Yiting Xian dared to judge it like this, then Chen Ning must have won. Very quickly, Chen Ning and Na Mu Kyo's words were hung on the two sides of the stone tablet. The two sides of the stone tablet were filled with people. The people on the West Chu and East Qin stands were all gathered in front of the stone tablet. Their eyes were wide open as they looked at the original words on the stone tablet and the words written by the two people beside them. Mo Chuan stood in front of everyone and was the first to finish comparing. His heart was filled with doubt. It looked like Chen Ning and Na Mu Kyo's words were exactly the same and both sides did not have a single word wrong, but why did Yiting Xian insist that Chen Ning won? He couldn't help looking at Yiting Xian. He saw Yiting Xian reveal a faint smile and a sly look in his eyes as he slightly nodded at him. He guessed that Yiting Xian was confident and his heart relaxed. His eyes couldn't help looking over the crowd, searching for her figure. His eyes suddenly froze as he looked at Ting Xian. His eyes couldn't help looking over the crowd to look at her. He looked down and looked at her, Chen and Chu, Mo, Chin. Ling at Ting at Ling Ling Ting said. Ting Ting Ling Ting Ting. Ling, Ting is, Ting said, Ling, Chen was. She lowered her head and did not look at him. Anger appeared on his face. He grabbed her shoulder and shook it so hard that the soft, glossy black hair on her temples fell down. She finally looked up and met his eyes, forcefully nodding. The anger on Chu Xiaoyang's face became even stronger as he forcefully grabbed her shoulder. She knit her brows in pain, but she did not make a single sound. "You are mine. No one can take you away from me. You have to leave with me now." Chapter 667. He did not want to know who would win or lose this competition, he only knew that if she lost, that Prince Namu would take her away. He would not allow this. "Chu Xiaoyang, let me go. I'm not leaving, I haven't lost." Chen Ning struggled, but she couldn't escape his grasp. How could she compete with him with this bit of strength? A figure suddenly appeared in front of Chu Xiaoyang. He was standing against the light and his bright yellow robe was embroidered with black gold threads. It was bright and dazzling. The wind blew against the corner of the robe and the five-clawed golden dragon seemed like it was about to fly, giving off a suffocating pressure. "Xiaoyang, what do you want to do?" Mo Chuan calmly spoke. His hand was holding Chu Xiaoyang's wrist and his grip was not gentle at all. The vein on Chu Xiaoyang's forehead popped out. He slowly raised his chin and looked at Mo Chuan, but there was not a trace of respect in his eyes. So it's the emperor. This minister should be the one asking the emperor, what does the emperor want to do? He coldly said as his eyes filled with hostility. Mo Chuan knit his brows and decisively said, you can leave if you want, but the princess cannot leave. Why? Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth. Because before the outcome is decided, she cannot leave. King Dingyuan, don't forget that you personally recommended the princess to this one. If you didn't want her to participate, why did you send her here? Since she came and competed, she has to stay here and wait for the result. No matter if she wins or loses, this is her responsibility. Mo Chuan spoke in a deep voice, word for word. Chu Xiaoyang's intestines turned green with regret when he thought of this. He said in a hoarse voice, Emperor, do you know what the result will be if she loses? Of course this one knows. But this one knows that she will definitely not lose. Chu Xiaoyang looked at Mo Chuan and his lips suddenly curled into an unknown smile. It was filled with ridicule and pride. Your Majesty, do you really want her to win? Of course this one wants it, everyone here is hoping for it. King Dingyuan, do you want her to lose? Mo Chuan could not understand Chu Xiaoyang's smile. He just felt his heart turn cold, like something bad was about to happen. That's right. If she wins, she can take out the emperor's personally written imperial decree and ask this king to separate. Emperor, have you been looking forward to this moment? Chu Xiaoyang continued to say with a smile. How do you know? Mo Chuan said through gritted teeth. His pupils suddenly shrank and his fingers unknowingly used strength. Chu Xiaoyang's wrist bones made a cracking sound, but there was no pain on his face at all. Rather he revealed a very happy smile. This official knows a lot of things, but there is one thing that your Majesty definitely doesn't know. That imperial edict that you personally wrote no longer exists. It has already been personally burned to ashes by Ning and blown away by the wind. Is your Majesty very disappointed after knowing this news? He said in a hoarse voice, you're lying, this isn't true. She wouldn't. He looked at Qin Ning in pain with eyes filled with disbelief. He did not believe Chu Xiaoyang's words, he did not believe a single word. Chapter 668. Yes, that imperial edict no longer exists, it was personally burned by me. Chen Ning finally raised her head and looked at Mo Chuan. Her eyes were calm, without any ripples at all. She used a large amount of strength to maintain her calm because she couldn't be excited. In front of everyone's eyes, she couldn't let anyone see that she had anything to do with Mo Chuan no matter what. Since she had already promised Chu Xiaoyang to return to his side, what she needed to do now was to forget Mo Chuan. She needed to forget all the sweet memories between them. She could not give Mo Chuan any hope. It was best if they could forget each other like this. If he could hate her, then let him hate her. Hating a person was much easier than loving a person. Mo Chuan's body heavily trembled. He stared at her, not daring to believe that these words had come from her own mouth. Why? His voice was so low that it was hard to hear, but she could still understand it. She smiled. Her smile was still that sweet and intoxicating, but this smile was not for him, but rather for Chu Xiaoyang beside her. Because Xiaoyang, he really treats me very, very well. After all this time, I finally realized that I can't leave him. We had many misunderstandings before, but now that all the misunderstandings have been cleared up and I've forgiven him, naturally I should return to his side. Is the emperor satisfied with this answer? She looked up at Chu Xiaoyang beside her and spoke in a soft voice. But each word she said was like a knife stabbing into his heart. Mo Chuan felt like his heart was bleeding because he was in too much pain. His heart was hurting more and more, making his handsome face twist in pain. The smile on her face also stung his eyes, making his eyes start to burn. He felt a wave of heat enter his eyes, and the image of her in front of him instantly became hazy. He couldn't cry. He definitely couldn't cry. Mo Chuan looked up at the blue sky above his head, looking at the vast and boundless sky. This was the West Chu's sky, and he was the ruler of a country. How could he lose the dignity of a ruler in front of everyone because of his personal feelings? He definitely couldn't. Even if his heart was already riddled with wounds, no matter how much pain it was, he couldn't let anyone see anything strange. Satisfied. Mo Chuan slowly looked down and his eyes flashed across their faces. His expression was calm, as if nothing had happened at all. He only slowly said these two words before letting go of Chu Xiaoyang's wrist. He turned around and left. He left so decisively, without the slightest bit of reluctance, not even looking back at her. Chu Xiaoyang curled his lips and revealed a satisfied smile. That's right, this was the result he wanted. He was like an experienced hunter, not anxious or impatient, patiently waiting for his prey to fall into his trap. Then, he would open a big net and trap her tightly, making it impossible for her to escape for the rest of her life. The three of them spoke in extremely low voices. Almost no one on the drill ground noticed what they were saying or doing, because everyone's attention was focused on the inscriptions, comparing them and discussing them. However, there was one person who didn't move his gaze away from the three of them from beginning to end. Although Chu Xiaobai was standing in the crowd looking at the stone tablet, he had been paying attention to this scene. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.